When the golden orb materialized right before Arata's eyes, he felt his lifelong dream of becoming a slayer was finally within reach. But before his fingers could even graze the artifact, his deadbeat father snatched it away, rambling about how much cash it would fetch on the market. When his brother Ryu tried to step up and protest, their ruthless father delivered a kick so brutal it sent Ryu slamming straight into the drywall. That monster of a man marched out to a dealer named Takatora and pawned off the golden orb for 30 million. Flash forward a few years. Arata and Ryu were glued to the news watching a so-called hero flex, a familiar golden orb with a distinct blue ring. The recognition was instant because in all of Japan, there is only one golden orb per element. It was undeniable. That power belonged to Arata. Without hesitation, the brothers headed out to confront the fraud immediately. Ryu got in Takatora's face, demanding his brother's legacy back, but the guy played innocent, which only fueled Ryu's rage. Feigning defeat, Takatora promised to take them to the orb's location and guided them deep into a secluded room. Too late, the brothers realized they had walked straight into a setup. A jagged magic fissure was tearing open right there in the room. Before they could react, Takatora slammed the door and locked them inside. Suddenly, the fissure spat out a volatile dark soul. Ryu didn't think twice. He shoved Arata to safety, taking the hit himself. As he turned back, his body began to warp, but before the transformation took over, he whispered that he always believed in Arata. Then, Ryu erupted into a hulking, four-armed ogre. Arata crumbled, drowning in guilt and despair, blaming himself for this nightmare. But deep down, he refused to quit. He told himself it wasn't his fault. It was the greedy scumbags who stole everything. Suddenly, a dark orb manifested, responding to his inner turmoil, as if an unseen entity was watching. Arata didn't hesitate. He reached out and the darkness merged with his very soul. Agony ripped through his veins. Fighting to keep his sanity, a holographic notification flashed before his eyes, confirming he was now under the protection of the demon realm. On top of that, he unlocked new skills like the Blast Shadow Blade, the Blast Armor, and the Blast Flash. Meanwhile, on the other side of the door, Takatora was laughing hysterically at their misery. He bragged about his plan to farm them for XP to level up, mocking the boys as worthless peasants compared to his elite status. In his mind, the trash had been taken out, but he had no clue what was actually happening inside, or that Arata was surviving a brutal metamorphosis. As the pain finally faded, clarity washed over Arata. He had absorbed the orb's raw power, but there was no time to process it. His monstrous brother came thundering toward him. A massive fist nearly flattened him, but Arata found himself teleporting out of impact range before the blow could land. It was pure instinct. Arata realized he had dodged automatically, his body feeling lighter than air. A glowing status screen hovered in his vision, displaying his level stats, skills, and even an HP bar. It was all so foreign he couldn't tell if he had finally awakened as a slayer. He was still processing the UI when his brother wound up for another charge. Arata screamed at the top of his lungs, begging Ryu to fight the dark energy consuming him. Arata swore on his life that he would save him, declaring it was finally his turn to be the protector. Arata stood frozen in place, and just as the beast barreled down on him, it slammed on the brakes. Letting out a gut-wrenching roar of frustration, the monster smashed through the back wall and vanished into the night. Arata stood there stunned. That hesitation proved Ryu was still in there somewhere, fighting for control. But then the horror set in. If other slayers found that beast, they would execute his brother on sight. Arata knew his mission. He had to hunt down his brother before the heroes did. Suddenly, reality cracked open again. A magic fissure manifested, birthing a terrifying new beast right in his path. The creature didn't wait. It lunged instantly to skewer him. Arata backflipped, watching the creature's punch obliterate the ground where he just stood. He was still trying to read the enemy when a massive tail whip caught him blindside, launching him violently into the wall. Pain exploded through his body. This wasn't a game, this monster was lethal. Arata knew he had to drop this thing fast so he could chase after Ryu. That's when he remembered his arsenal: Blast Shadow Blade, Blast Armor, and Blast Flash, all sitting at level 1. It didn't matter. He was a slayer now. Confidence surged through his veins as he squared up against the nightmare. The beast roared and charged. Arata didn't flinch. He unleashed the Blast Flash. An eruption of dark energy blasted the creature backward. Arata gasped for air, thinking he bought a second of respite, but the beast was relentless. It slammed him into the wall with bone-crushing force, and his vision began to blur. Arata couldn't believe the irony. He had finally achieved his dream, only to face death minutes later. He's spiraling, terrified he's going to punch his ticket without leaving a mark, or worse, without saving his brother. Death lunges, but something snaps in Arata. He locks into a flow state, a dark purple aura exploding around him. His eyelids fly open, revealing irises blazing with the crimson intensity of a vampire. Boom, out of thin air, projectiles slam into the monster, ripping a scream from its throat. Arata blacks out. When reality fades back in, the beast is toast. It's a corpse riddled with weapons. Arata stares, his brain totally short-circuiting. Did he actually solo that thing? He has zero clue what just went down. Ding, the system flashes a notification level 3 reached. It clicks, he dropped the beast, he got the XP. His stats just got a sweet buff, but who cares? Power creates zero hype right now. Finding his brother is the only mission. He stumbles onto the asphalt, looking like a total wreck. Then Takatora's face pops into his head, and Arata's blood boils. Pure, unfiltered rage. He swears he'll never let that guy off the hook for this nightmare. Adrenaline crashes. Arata collapses right there on the pavement. Meanwhile, Takatora doubles back to the crime scene, expecting corpses, but finding a disaster zone. The walls obliterated. Takatora's jaw hits the floor. No way. There is literally no way those brothers slipped through his fingers. Cut to black, then Arata jolts awake from a flashback. He scans the room. Weird vibes. It's a clinic. The last clip playing in his brain is the Godo building, and that insane boss fight. Reality hits like a truck. His brother is a monster, and the clock is ticking on saving him. He tries to bail, but a nurse materializes in the doorway armed with medical supplies. Get back in bed, she orders. Arata freezes, stammering, totally caught off guard. She drops the info they found him, passed out on the curb. She gestures to his bandages, souvenirs from the beast brawl. Arata completely blanked on that, but now it's coming back. Where the hell am I? He asks. Slayer Relief Station, she replies. And yeah, this isn't her first rodeo. She claims rookie Slayers always overcook it in their debut fight and end up in the ER. Arata's stunned, he's in an official station. Who dragged him here? While he spirals, the nurse drops some advice. Join a guild, kid. Get your Slayer badge. She starts listing the VIP perks of guild life, but Arata shuts her down. I gotta go. Suddenly she goes full mom mode, screaming at him. You are grounded until you heal, she insists. Defeated, Arata sinks back into the pillow. Satisfied, she exits, tossing a stay put over her shoulder. The second the latch clicks, Arata is up. He creeps to the door and eavesdrops on some guys discussing a magic beast. They mention the Godo building sighting. Arata's stomach drops. That's his brother they're talking about. There's chatter about a mystery slayer tagging along. If that beast ducks into a magic fissure, they've got a massive problem. Basically, if it enters the fissure, the situation goes from bad to impossible. Arata connects the dots. The guild has a target on his brother's back. They aren't trying to help. They're trying to execute. He has to move. Now. The nurse pushes the door open. To an empty room. Windows wide open. Arata is already tearing down the street, panic rising. If he's too slow, his brother is dead meat. He recalls the fissure talk, that's the only place he could be. New plans scour every magic fissure in the grid until he finds him. Buzz. His phone alerts an emergency broadcast, magic fissure detected in Asagi. Civilians are clearing out, which means Arata is running in. He sprints to the anomaly. It's a bronze rank low tier. He spots a containment barrier shimmering around it. The association secured the perimeter, but no slayers are on the scene yet. It's his chance. First, dungeon dive. Yeah, his heart is hammering, but he swallows the fear. Saving his brother outweighs the risk. He steps through the portal. The system pings immediately, registering a new challenger. Arata looks up, and his mind gets blown. It's a scorching desert, a totally alien dimension compared to the city streets. No sign of his brother, so the only way is forward. Ping new quest. Defeat the boss to clear the fissure. Logic dictates the boss is lurking in the deepest, darkest pit of this fissure. But the path down is crawling with hostiles, and the nagging doubt in his head is screaming, can he actually survive the gauntlet? Suddenly, a level 3 nightmare cuts him off. He flashbacks to yesterday's win, trying to hype himself up. But honestly, he's flying blind. Still, it's fight or die. He navigates his interface, manifesting the Shadow Blade. Arata is just relieved the glitchy skill actually worked. The beast lunges for the kill, but clang, he parries the lethal bite with his blade. Muscles screaming, Arata grits his teeth, barely holding back the monster's weight. The impact launches him backward. This is the wake-up call. Sparring is nothing like a deathmatch against real monsters. All that training with his brother, it feels useless right now, but he snaps out of it, locking in. He speed blitzes the creature, dicing it into confetti. As the monster dissolves, a system alert pops up. Level up. 3 to 5. But the victory lap is cut short. An entire horde spawns out of thin air. Pure terror washes over him. This is a bronze rank dungeon. Yeah, right. The spawn rate is completely broken. Arata is staring down a massacre, wondering if he can handle a mob rush all at once. But instead of freezing up, he braces for impact. He's ready to throw hands. He's banking on that overpowered broken skill from yesterday to save his skin again. The second the swarm descends, reality hits Arata like a truck. He's finished. He has zero clue how to trigger the nuke. Just as the jaws close and a massive inferno erupts, vaporizing the entire pack. Arata stands there shook. A voice from behind demands to know what kind of magic he just unleashed. But Arata is mute, completely stunned by the sheer destructive power he just witnessed. The stranger eyes Arata down like a target, revealing he got a tip-off from the association about a rogue unidentified slayer. And looking at the carnage, he assumes Arata is their guy. Arata scans the stranger and realizes he's staring at a golden rank heavyweight, wielding the fire attribute. It's Ryo Kuji from the elite Lion Flame Guild. Flanking him are two silver rank lackeys, Shu Makishima and Hayato Akagi. Arata is confused. Why is one of the 5 great kings slumming it down here? Rude beasts interrupt the chat, and Ryo snaps his fingers. Snap. The monsters turn to ash instantly, leaving nothing but a heat haze. He's literally farming aura just to flex on our MC. Arata is trembling, witnessing the gap between him and a golden slayer for the first time. Ryo steps closer, commenting on the insane monster density, which is way too high for a bronze fisher. He points at Arata's shadow sword. What is that build? The question catches Arata off guard. He's been asking himself the same thing. All he knows is that this power doesn't fit into the main 5 attributes. It's an anomaly. Ryo's curiosity peaks, calling Arata a weird guy wielding a weird power. His expression turns icy as he demands to know Arata's business in the fissure. Arata freezes. He obviously can't admit he is searching for his fugitive brother, or they'll mark him for execution too. Arata decides to play the silent card. He turns around, drops a quick thanks for the assist, and tries to dip. See, orbs usually manifest power based on a user's prayer or desire. That's basic lore. But Ryo sees none of that logic in Arata. He cuts off his escape, declaring that he has connected the dots. Arata is the irregular everyone is freaking out about. Arata tries to gaslight him, claiming he has no idea what an irregular is. He insists he has to leave, but Ryo drops the Hammer Association orders kid. You're coming in for questioning. Ryo tells him not to take it personal, launching a fiery haymaker straight at Arata's face. Arata throws up a desperate guard with his sword. Whoosh! He watches in horror as his shadow construct is literally burned away by Ryo's overwhelming heat. Even Ryo looks surprised. The sword evaporated. Arata scrambles back to create distance, but Ryo isn't done playing. He warns his squad to stand down. He is starting to enjoy this little spar. The lackeys nod, but inside they are terrified. They know they'll be reduced to cinders if Ryo stops holding back. Ryo doesn't hesitate, unleashing a hellstorm of fireballs. Arata realizes he is seconds away from being cooked alive and dives behind a boulder for cover. As the flames die down, Ryo flashes a cocky grin, giving Arata a choice: wave the white flag or get roasted into ash. Huddled behind a boulder, the reality hits Arata hard. He's never seeing his brother again if Ryo drags him in. Suddenly, Ryo launches skyward, charging up a massive fireball that locks onto Arata like a heat-seeking missile. Realizing cover is useless, Arata scrambles, diving away from his spot. He barely clears the blast zone. Ryo lands looking smug, taunting that there's nowhere left to run. While Ryo cackles at him, Arata is sweating bullets, furiously scrolling through his skill menu for a lifeline. To counter this pyromaniac, bingo! He spots a skill that might just save his skin. Arata stands up, his vibe completely shifted. Even Ryo senses the change. Arata thrusts his hands out, and Ryo scoffs, claiming resistance is futile against him. As always, he unleashes a chaotic volley of flame. Moments before impact, Arata triggers his power, devouring the fireballs whole. It drains him instantly, but he refuses to drop. Ryo's smile fades. This kid isn't just fodder. Still, Ryo flexes his true firepower, offering one last chance to yield or die. Arata responds by extending his shadow sword, declaring his brother is waiting. Capture isn't an option. That word brother strikes a nerve in Ryo, snapping his focus. Arata seizes the gap, launching himself forward. By the time Ryo snaps back to reality, Arata is already mid-air, blade swinging down. Ryo barely gets his guard up, catching the steel on his wrist gauntlet. He holds the line, but he sees a new fire in Arata's eyes. They lock eyes for a beat before Arata steps back, sheathing his weapon. I'm leaving, he says flatly. Ryo is floored. Then he calls out, if you've got people to protect, you better be strong enough to solo the boss. Arata blinks, surprised the enemy is actually coaching him. Ryo isn't done yet, warning him to level up fast, but to stop the reckless plays, or he'll burn out before he even starts. Arata grins, drops a quick thanks, and bolts. Ryo watches him go, smiling like a proud dad. His squad rushes over, reporting the local beasts have been neutralized, but Ryo ignores them. That kid's got spark, he muses. His men are shook. The boss is actually in a good mood. Back at the Navy, guild alarms ring for a new magic fissure. The guild master deploys a silver slayer, Aoi Ichika, to handle it. Unlike the grunts, she's actually hyped for the violence, and it's written all over her face. Later, the dungeon kicks Arata out. Someone else clapped the boss, and he figures it was Ryo. But before the forced exit, Arata had scoured the place, finding zero traces of his brother. Back outside, a news alert flashes on a screen. Report all magic beast sightings. Seeing that, Arata realizes the harsh truth: no one's coming to save him. He's got to do this solo. Ping, a new notification hits his phone. Another fissure detected in District 4. Locals are already getting the evacuate now blasts on their devices. Since he's practically next door, Arata decides to crash the party. He sprints over praying. He beats the other slayers to the loot. A rival confirms it, bronze rank fissure. It's still active. Maybe, just maybe, his brother is inside. He steps toward the portal. Blocked. Two Navy Guild goons, Hanamida and Ishinaru, step in. Close to the public, kid. The vibe sours instantly when they spot his lack of a badge. The trash talk starts immediately, mocking him as a normal slayer, the absolute bottom of the barrel compared to the gold elites. Basically an NPC with a sword. Arata can't believe the audacity of these clowns. Wondering who they think they are, they keep yapping, dropping the info that their master has dibs on clearing this dungeon, meaning no entry for randoms, especially not trash like him. Arata's confused by the politics, but insists he's got urgent business inside. He needs in now. The goons make it clear they don't give a damn about his sob story, and his access is denied. Then they throw the first punch. Arata sidesteps the cheap shot effortlessly. He keeps his hands down, warning them he's on a schedule. But when they won't back down, Arata decides class is in session. Time to teach them a lesson about pain. He summons the Shadow Blade and blurs toward them. Arata locks in, ready to serve these clowns a lesson in pain. But suddenly, he freezes. A quick glance down reveals the nightmare. He's caught in a dirty mud trap laid by those trolls. Before he can even process the setup, the ground swallows him whole. It's a bottomless pit, and he's sinking fast. This is it. Game over, unless he pulls a miracle. Helpless Arata can only glare at his tormentors as the earth consumes him. Hey, what do you think you're doing? A voice cuts through the tension from behind. The bullies whip around confused, and the speaker turns out to be Aoi Ichika. The duo's jaws hit the floor. This high-tier lady definitely isn't supposed to be crashing their party. Aoi doesn't waste a second on small talk. She summons a massive water wave, blasting Arata out of the muck and back onto solid ground. Slayers fighting slayers, seriously, she demands. While Arata is busy hacking up a lung, he manages to expose Hanamida and Ishinari for gatekeeping the fissure. Aoi's expression darkens. She knows exactly what this is. Rogue slayers sneaking into unmapped zones to hog all the loot and glory before the officials arrive. Typical toxic behavior. She clocks them immediately. Meanwhile, the gruesome twosome realizes Aoi is about to ruin their entire hustle, and they decide to silence the witness. They smirk, convinced they can crush her. After all, she's just a support slayer, right? They launch a vicious ice barrage without warning. But Aoi's reflex game is god tier. She instantly deploys a barrier shielding both herself and Arata. Shrugging off the first wave, Aoi looks at Arata. You take the point. I've got your back. Arata freezes. Fight actual humans. He's a total rookie, but with their backs against the wall, he nods. Let's do this. Aoi smirks and casts Merlin Schnell. Boom! The buff hits him like a freight train, and power surges through his veins. His body feels weightless, supercharged, and totally different from before. Aoi signals that this will be a cakewalk now. With her buffs taking out, these trash mobs should be easy, so Arata doesn't hesitate. He launches forward, moving so fast he's practically a blur. The bullies panic. Where did this speed come from? Before their brains can even catch up, Arata connects. One swing of his blade, and it's lights out for the duo. Zero recoil. He feels fresh. A quick glance at his status window confirms the insane boost. His numbers are skyrocketing. Aoi panics, screaming, "Did you slice them open?" But Arata reassures her that he only used the dull back of his blade. Aoi lets out a breath of relief, but she's fuming that members of her own guild are out here acting like clowns. That's when Arata spots it, the Water Slayer badge on her chest, confirming she's with Takatora's crew too. Interesting. They finally take a beat for proper intros, and Aoi admits Arata's got some serious hands. But before they can vibe, the two losers scramble to their feet. As they sprint away like cowards, they scream their boss's name, Takatora. That name rings a bell for Arata. Aoi's eyes narrow. She's definitely reporting this mess to Guildmaster Ray to expose Takatora's shady side hustles. But first, she reminds him we've got a fissure to clear. Arata hesitates, but Aoi explains that backup is en route. However, she's got the green light to raid right now. Arata looks totally lost at that info. Look, low-rank dungeons have been glitching lately, she explains. We need to stick together. Plus, she's a cracked support unit. Arata recalls that buff she gave him, it was absolutely broken. He finally thanks her for the assist. Aoi grins. So you, down to raid this thing with me, or what? Teaming up with a pro. Too good to pass up. Arata is all in, hyped on adrenaline. The duo steps into the breach. But the moment they cross the threshold, Arata freezes. This isn't like the last dungeon. It's a massive, creepy cavern system. Aoi explains that the interior is a twisted dimension, totally randomized. You never know what nightmare you're walking into. Stay sharp, Aoi warns. Arata nods, scanning the darkness. But as they venture deeper, something feels off. It's quiet. Too quiet. No monsters and zero sign of his big brother. He knew finding his bro wouldn't be easy, but hey, he's raiding with a silver-ranked slayer. This is the perfect chance to grind XP and learn how the pros actually fight. Suddenly, a level 5 goblin jumps out looking like it wants to turn their insides into a smoothie. Flashback to yesterday when a single goblin nearly wrecked him. They're supposed to be trash mobs, but not today. Arata doesn't flinch. He lunges forward and separates that goblin's head from its shoulders. Clean, kill. Arata's still grinning from his first kill when the vibe shifts. Hard. Suddenly, an entire goblin army spawns in, and that smile drops faster than a bad signal. Pure panic sets in. Seeing the sheer number of enemies, imposter syndrome hits him like a truck. Does he actually have the juice to clear this mob, or is he just fodder? Right on cue, Aoi comes in clutch with a massive buff spiking his stats. She flashes that signature confident smile from the backline, signaling him to show these creeps who the real main character is. Arata doesn't hesitate. He follows her lead and starts slicing through the goblin ranks with zero chill. After wiping out the squad, the system dings, level 5 to level 6. Aoi gives him props, hype woman style, claiming that with her backup, bronze rank beasts are basically a tutorial level. Arata nods, feeling the rush, telling her he feels absolutely cracked right now. Aoi flexes a bit, reminding him she's the guild's MVP when it comes to support, but the victory lap is cut short. Arata feels a disturbance in the force, something nasty is lurking behind them. Behind you, he screams, voice cracking. A sneaker goblin lunges, claws out, ready to end her run, but Clang Aoi's shield is up instantly. She pivots, and with pure fury in her eyes absolutely blasts the goblin into next week. Arata is shook seeing her chain those skills. In split seconds. That's veteran status right there. She's not just fast, she's the ultimate team player. Catching Arata spacing out, she snaps him back to reality, reminding him they can't camp here. Arata's already looking at her like an idol plotting his grind so he can match her power level. He verbally commits to the goal he wants to be a protector, just like her. Aoi softens up, telling him that's a solid dream. But then she drops the reality check he needs to clear the room first. That's when Arata realizes they are literally swimming in a sea of goblins. Again, he tries to count the heads, but Aoi is cool as a cucumber. She reapplies the buffs, same as before, and tells him to go to town. Arata is feeling the love that support is pure adrenaline, filling him with determination. He dives into the mosh pit, cutting down enemies like he's playing on easy mode. He's harvesting goblin parts and XP simultaneously. In no time, flat Arata has deleted the entire army that had them boxed in. The notification pops up sweet and clear. He skipped straight from level 6 to level 10. Arata stares at the screen stunned. The level up bonus unlocks a fresh skill, the blast cannon. But the dopamine hit crashes instantly when a fresh wave of monsters spawns. This batch is massive, a force so big it even sends a shiver down Aoi's spine. She warns Arata that the only win condition here is a preemptive strike. She knows his kit is weird, so she asks if he has any ranged options. If not, they're getting swarmed, and it's game over. Ranged attack, Arata's brain clicks. The blast cannon. He literally just unlocked the perfect tool for this mess. Arata equips the skill and aims his palm at the horde. With a single burst of raw magic energy, he vaporizes a chunk of the front line. But he's not done. He starts spamming the cannon, and before he knows it, the battlefield is empty. Aoi looks over, shooting him a smile that screams, "Not bad, rookie." Arata catches the drift, feeling relieved he didn't choke in front of the pro. Aoi calls for a push to the boss room and Arata is all in. Another ding sounds off. Level 12. They reach the dungeon's depths and the vibe gets heavy. Aoi whispers that she senses the boss, lurking in the dark. She tells Arata to stay sharp. Arata is sweating bullets. This is his first real boss fight. But the urge to protect his teammate overrides the fear. They breach the chamber. And there it is, a terrifying level 15 ogre. The beast rises from its throne, grumbling something in an alien tongue, completely unintelligible to Arata. No monologue though, the monster immediately fires a bolt of lightning from its staff. Aoi steps up. "I got this." She deploys a shield skill to tank the hit. But the impact is brutal. She holds it for a second before getting knocked flat. She's shocked. A bronze rank boss shouldn't hit this hard. The boss cues up another lightning bolt, and Aoi shouts that they'll never close the gap with that kind of suppressive fire. She lays out the play. She'll draw aggro and block, while Arata goes for the counter. Arata sees she's barely hanging on, but she insists she's fine. The idea of hiding behind her while she takes a beating ticks him off. He sprints at the ogre, while it's distracted, sniping AoE. Once he hits the sweet spot, he locks on and unleashes the blast cannon right in its face. Arata lands a critical hit, shattering the ogre's weapon and completely neutralizing its long-range artillery. Aoi is absolutely buzzing seeing Arata pull off such a clutch move, but the boss isn't ready to quit. In a fit of rage, it hurls the jagged debris of its broken weapon straight at Arata. It's a sudden, vicious counterattack, and Arata is left wide open. He tries to scramble away, but panic sets in as he realizes his reaction time is just a split second too slow. Before he can even twitch, the shrapnel tears through him. Arata stumbles back, coughing up a sickening amount of crimson. As he collapses to the dirt, AoE doesn't waste a heartbeat. She sprints across the battlefield to stabilize him. She instantly deploys a protective barrier around them and activates a high-level healing spell to patch him up. Like magic, the gash on his torso knits itself back together, and Arata gasps for air, finally strong enough to sit up. Aoi warns him that this is just temporary first aid. She checks his status, asking if he's mobile. Arata gives her a nod of gratitude, confirming he's still in the fight. Suddenly the ground shakes. The ogre is thundering toward them for round 2. Arata stares in disbelief. That a monster of that size can move with such terrifying speed. It's barreling straight for them, winding up a smash meant to flatten them into paste. The massive arm crashes down, and while Aoi's barrier catches the impact, she's visibly... Arata knows it's game over if they don't end this immediately. He scans the enemy, sharpening his focus until he spots it. A tiny gap in the ogre's armor right at the neck. He calculates the trajectory if he can hit that exposed flesh. It'll be an instant takedown. Sticking to the playbook, Aoi draws the monster's aggro, while Arata maneuvers for the kill shot. But the boss adapts. It senses the ambush, and abruptly shifts its focus from the tank to the damage dealer, swinging a heavy fist at Arata. Death is inches away, but Arata finds his window in the chaos. He dodges and blasts his cannon point blank into the ogre's exposed neck. The impact is devastating, forcing the beast to its knees. Aoi screams at the top of her lungs, urging Arata to finish the job right now. Arata summons his shadow blade, eyes burning with resolve. He's done being the guy who needs protecting. As he winds up for the final strike, Aoi isn't just watching. She casts a massive buff to supercharge his attack power. Arata grins as the energy surges through him. He sprints, launches himself into the air, and puts every ounce of his soul into one downward slash. The strike is clean. The ogre's head flies off its shoulders in a fountain of dark blood. The boss is down, defeated by our main character. Arata looks up at the cavern ceiling as a holographic notification pops up. Level up. Aoi beams, rushing over to celebrate. She raises her hand for a high five. Arata is caught off guard by the wholesome gesture, but he smiles and slaps her hand in return. With the boss slain, the dungeon dimension begins to crumble. The fissure is collapsing, and they have to sprint for the exit before they get buried alive. They dive through the portal just seconds before the rift vanishes into thin air. Back in reality, Arata realizes his brother wasn't there, but his power has grown significantly. He's lost in thought, until his legs give out from sheer exhaustion. Aoi sees he's running on fumes, grabs his wrist and drags him along, telling him to keep up. Arata groans, assuming he's being hauled to the infirmary again. But surprise, Aoi leads him straight to the Navy Guild headquarters. She drops him in a waiting room with a fresh set of clothes to change into, then heads for the door, telling him she has to file an urgent mission report. 15 minutes pass and Arata is sitting there wondering what's taking her so long. Impatient, he steps out into the hallway to investigate. Immediately, a girl sprinting down the corridor trips and goes flying toward him. Arata catches her smoothly. He's about to ask if she's okay, but then he gets a good look at her face and freezes. He instantly aborts any potential romance subplot and sprints for the exit like his life depends on it. That clumsy girl was Rei, the guildmaster of the Navy Guild, and Arata cannot afford to be interrogated by someone that high profile. Rei stands there confused, wondering why the guy just bolted. She shrugs off the weird encounter and heads into the conference room. Inside, Aoi is waiting. Rei greets her with a smile, but Aoi is ice cold. She's not here for pleasantries. She tells Rei they need to talk serious business only. Aoi can't hold it back anymore and unloads her frustration, exposing everything Takatora has been doing in the shadows. Rei has to step in and tell her to breathe, as Aoi continues her rant. Regaining her composure, Aoi lays out the entire gritty situation. She reveals the shocking truth to Rei, that Takatora is manipulating the fissures for his own gain. Rei is stunned by the betrayal and decides she's going to handle him personally, alone. But as she plans her move, her mind drifts back to the mysterious guy she bumped into in the hallway. The next day, Arata is counting his lucky stars that he escaped Rei without blowing his cover. He's cutting through a back alley when he spots a group of slayers getting wrecked by a magic beast while trying to shield a terrified child. The enemy is a brutal two-headed monster packing serious firepower, but Arata doesn't even blink. He launches himself into the fray, closing the distance instantly to deliver a shadow-infused haymaker right to the beast's face. He shatters the beast's fire blast like it's glass. The rookie guarding the kid is absolutely shook, staring at this absolute unit of a fighter. Is this guy even a slayer? Arata doesn't waste time questioning it. It's grinding season. He summons his massive shadow sword. The rookie's mind is blown. He's never witnessed that level of raw power. Arata locks eyes with the monster, shielding the kids behind him. The beast charges, but Arata drops into a flawless combat stance. Boom. One clean strike disintegrates the nightmare. But he's not alone. Someone's watching him from the shadows. and they are definitely intrigued. Cut to the Slayers Association HQ. The 5 kings have gathered for a high-stakes summit, representing the elite dojo from Seiwa, Guild Ryoku Uji from Lion Flame, Rei from Navy, Takudo from Jade Sky, and Shion from Kaizen. Dojo takes the lead. Dropping the first agenda item, dimensional fissures are spawning way too frequently. Ryo nods in agreement, mentioning a recent bronze rank glitch that unleashed a horde of beasts. Rei chimes in. Boss monsters are spawning in low-level rifts, and they are way overpowered for their assigned ranks. Ryo shrugs it off. To him, this isn't a crisis, it's just hardcore survival training for the Slayers. Takuto smirks at that, calling Ryo out for being reckless with people's lives. That triggers Ryo. He shoots up from his chair, getting right in Takuto's face. Ryo flexes his guild stats over Takuto's, but Takuto stays icy cool, ignoring the outburst until Ryo sits back down. Since this spike is new, Rei questions the cause. Dojo suspects a shift in the meta. Something is evolving within the beasts themselves, triggering these irregular spawns. However, he assures the team that this anomaly is the key. He orders them to report every single glitch or oddity, and the kings agree. Then Dojo drops the next bomb, the irregular Slayer. This guy's been solo clearing rifts off the grid. No license, no registration. Dojo has zero clue why. But he suspects the evolution isn't just happening to monsters, it's happening to Slayers too. Rei speaks up. She actually spotted a guy matching that description at her guild. She notes his skill set was completely alien compared to standard abilities. But before she could make contact, he vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, big twist, Takuto was the one spying on Arata from the rooftop earlier, but he keeps his mouth shut. Rei theorizes this mystery fighter knows he's special, and that's why he refuses to join a guild. As she lays out this profile, Takuto interrupts with a wild take. Maybe Arata is actually a magic beast. Ryo instantly shuts that down, telling Takuto to quit spouting garbage. Rei's eyes go wide. Ryo knows this guy. Ryo owns it. He admits the kid is crazy strong but definitely human. Takuto busts out laughing. He was just trolling to get a reaction. Dojo refocuses the room. Capturing Arata is optional. Without hard evidence, they can't officially issue a warrant. Shion finally breaks her silence. If Arata doesn't want to be found, why are they obsessing over him? She drops that truth bomb and stands up to leave. Total queen behavior. She's got a tea party to attend. But at the door, she spots something, a tiny camera perched high up. She ignores it, clueless that Takutora is watching the whole feed remotely. He bugged the meeting room perfectly. Based on their reactions, he realizes Arata is rattling the 5 kings. If Takutora captures him first, his clout in the association skyrockets. He ends the chaos and secures his position, 2 birds, 1 stone. But first, he needs intel. To bag this irregular, he analyzes the data. He deduces Arata's secret. The kid unlocked a light element skill, while his brother has morphed into a magic beast. Connecting the dots, Takutora predicts Arata's next spawn point. He rises from his chair, deciding to neutralize the target now. Later, Arata sees civilians fleeing a new fissure in panic, but he sprints straight into the danger zone. Before he hits the rift, Takutora blocks his path. Geared up in full armor and wearing a smug, punchable grin, Takutora starts mocking him for trying so hard to survive. But the fun's over. He's dragging Arata back to the association, dead or alive. He demands Arata surrender quietly, but the kid snaps, screaming at him to back the hell off. Takutora just smirks, throwing shade about Arata's brother, morphing into a mindless beast and running wild. He laughs right in Arata's face, cold-bloodedly, announcing he's going to put his brother down for good. Pure fury consumes Arata, and he unleashes his burst cannon point blank. But Takutora doesn't even flinch, tanking the incoming blast without breaking a sweat, absorbing the energy in a single breath. Arata is shook, but he refuses to fold. Whipping out his shadow blade, he launches a desperate dash straight at his enemy, but he's moving in slow motion compared to the Golden Slayer. Takutora fires a long-range counter, trying to swallow Arata whole. Arata barely gets his sword up to parry, but the impact is too massive to handle. He gets ragdolled to the pavement, writhing in pain. Takutora wastes 0 time roasting him, claiming his power is only special, because it's rare, not because it's strong. Arata struggles to his knees, mind racing he was supposed to have, leveled up his burst cannon and blazing shadow blade. He starts spiraling, wondering if a win against a Golden Slayer is physically impossible. Yet fueled by adrenaline, Arata forces himself back on his feet. Takutora raises an eyebrow, genuinely surprised the rookie can still stand. Arata triggers a skill called Soot Darkness, flooding the zone with pitch-black smoke. Takutora stands his ground, convinced Arata is just throwing up, a cheap smokescreen to hide. He tries to track the kid's movement, but suddenly a shadow strike comes slicing toward his jugular. He barely deflects it with his powers, angrily slashing away other strange projectiles flying out of the gloom. When the haze lifts, he spots Arata blitzing toward him. The kid almost lands a fatal cut, but Takutora casually blocks the strike. Arata warns him that this is the end of the road. But Takatora claps back, declaring he won't stop evolving until he sits on the throne as one of the 5 kings. He's plotting a hostile takeover of the Navy Guild to control the entire association. Arata gets in his face, shouting that he won't stand by and watch a tyrant rise because a guy like Takatora isn't fit to rule anything. Takatora backhands, Arata sending him flying, telling him to stay in his lane with the rest of the trash. He draws his ice blade, revealing his twisted plan to use Arata as a sacrifice. He mocks the kid, saying his blade is a joke compared to this ice steel, but Arata hits him with a painful truth. That orb Takatora is flexing originally belonged to him. Arata screams that his big brother would still be human if Takatora hadn't stolen that artifact. A dark, chaotic aura explodes from Arata as the realization hits. Takatora is the root of every nightmare he's lived through. Screaming in rage, Arata charges, aiming for the kill, but his slash gets blocked. Takatora notices the kid's power output has spiked, but even with the buff, he's still outclassed. Takatora shoves him back, telling him to just give up peacefully. Then Takatora drops the hammer, unleashing his ultimate move, the Ice Emperor's Prison. The battlefield instantly flash freezes, and Arata is encased in solid ice. With his movement completely locked down, Takatora fires off jagged icicles. To wrap this up, unable to dodge, Arata takes the hit and drops knocked out cold. Takatora sneers at the unconscious body, mocking him for passing out from a mid-tier attack. He points his blade at Arata's throat, ready to execute him and feed the association whatever cover story he cooks up. But just before the killing blow, a blast of ice slams into him, stopping the blade. Stunned, he whips around to find Rei and Aoi glaring at him with pure disgust. Rei calls him out for causing chaos, demanding to know why he's brawling in broad daylight. Takatora freezes, realizing the guildmaster is actually here, and she reveals she's been tracking his shady moves. Rei realizes Takatora has been running wild the second her back was turned. He tries to spin the narrative, claiming Arata is an irregular threat, but Rei shuts him down. That doesn't give him a license to brutalize the kid. Aoi rushes to Arata's side, and through his blurred vision, Arata recognizes Rei from the guild. Aoi activates her healing skills, patching him up. Arata blinks, his eyes open, shocked to see Aoi hovering over him. He tries to sit up, but Aoi holds him down, warning him that he'll rip his stitches open. Arata screams out his hatred for Takatora, swearing he'll never forgive him. But the exertion is too much, and he blacks out again. Takatora threatens the girls, claiming they're defying the association if they protect this kid. Rei stares him down, reminding him that no official arrest warrant has been issued yet. Because of that technicality, she's filing a request to put Arata under Navy Guild protection. Takatora opens his mouth to argue, but Rei cuts him off, signaling that she and Aoi are taking over. Takatora steps up, claiming he's the one calling the shots on Arata. He tries to flex his status, reminding Rei that he holds the Golden Slayer title just like she does. Rei hits him with a sharp look, demanding to know exactly what he's implying. Takatora ignores the tension, suggesting they merge forces to expand the guild's empire. He's pitching a corporate takeover using his Goto Corporation assets to back the guild. Rei shuts him down cold, drawing a line, and telling the guy to stay out of her personal space. Takatora is forced to retreat, but he tries to save face arrogantly, claiming she'll come crawling back once she realizes just how elite he really is. Rei looks physically repulsed by his audacity. She orders Aoi to rush Arata to the medical bay, promising to meet them there in a few minutes. Cut to the Navy Guild infirmary. Arata wakes up in a daze and tries to scramble out of bed, but Aoi is already there playing goalie to stop him, telling him he's not going anywhere until she gets some answers. Suddenly, Aoi's intuition spikes. She has a bad feeling because Rei is taking way too long to arrive. She heads for the door, commanding Arata to stay put and not even think about pulling another disappearing act. Aoi sprints down the corridor and finds Rei wandering aimlessly. The powerful leader admits she got completely turned around trying to find the medical wing. Aoi grabs her hand like a lost child, scolding her for getting lost in her own HQ. It's wild that for all her insane power, Rei has zero sense of direction. She is absolutely hopeless without a map. The duo heads back to the infirmary, and the second they step through the doors, the vibe shifts. Aoi gets straight to the point, grilling Arata on why he bailed on the guild last time, and what possessed him to throw hands with Takatora. Arata stammers, struggling to find a valid excuse. Rei steps in with an offer, register with the guild, and he gets full protection from the higher-ups. It comes with a stack of perks, so she's genuinely confused why he's hesitating to sign the papers. Arata clams up, refusing to spill a single word. And Rei clarifies the deal. Yeah, they'll have to keep an eye on him, but they aren't trying to micromanage his entire existence. She lays it all out and asks if he's finally ready to talk. Arata opens his mouth, looking like he's about to break his silence, but he swallows the words again. He realizes that talking now might put a massive target on his brother's back. Rei reads the room. Seeing he's not ready to trust them, she decides to pivot and tells the duo it's time to head out. Arata looks confused by the sudden freedom, but Aoi is already cheering, knowing exactly what time it is. Flash forward to nightfall. Arata finds himself at a restaurant flanked by the two slayers. He's stunned, he got off the hook that easily. Aoi points out he's been fighting non-stop for days, and while being a workaholic is admirable, everybody needs to hit the pause button eventually. That logic hits home for Arata, especially when the aroma hits him. He hasn't had a real meal in ages, and the spread in front of him looks legendary. He figures a quick pit stop to refuel won't hurt his mission to find his brother. Aoi tells him to go crazy because the guild is picking up the tab. Arata is floored by the generosity, coming from the ladies he's been dodging. He realizes they've been saving his skin back to back, while he's given them nothing but trouble. He hesitates, wondering if he deserves this, but his stomach makes the decision for him. He can't resist. Arata dives into the food, mumbling a sincere thank you to the duo for saving him. Tears actually start streaming down his face as he tastes the first decent meal he's had in what feels like a lifetime. The girls join in, looking genuinely happy to see him eat. It makes Arata wonder about fate. Would he ever have this moment with these girls if he hadn't stumbled upon that orb? Once the edge is off their hunger, Rei circles back to business. She opens the floor, telling him he can ask her absolutely anything he wants. She starts by asking if he's a newbie slayer. Aoi chimes in, teasing Arata that he should feel honored to be getting a one-on-one chat with Rei since that's rare VIP treatment. Arata decides to seize the opportunity, telling Rei he's got one burning question. He needs to know how the guild tracks magic fissures. He's plotting to beat Takatora to the punch next time. Rei doesn't hold back. She reveals that they predict fissures using similar science to earthquake forecasting. She explains they analyze heavy data like geomagnetism, gravity shifts, and historical field disturbance cycles, combining them to pinpoint where a magic fissure will tear open. The catch: the accuracy sits at about 60%. Aoi notices Rei actually smiling at Arata, a total rarity for the stoic leader. But the moment is cut short when Rei's phone buzzes. It's an alert. A magic fissure is ripping open near the LK building in less than an hour. The data looks bad. It's projected to be a silver-class event. Rei's expression instantly darkens. Dinner is over. She warns them that high-tier monsters are about to flood the city, and they need to move. She looks at Aoi, who volunteers instantly. Arata jumps in too, saying he's ready to roll, especially if Aoi is watching his back. Rei gives him the green light to join the raid, but she warns him to stay sharp. One slip-up could be fatal. Arata assures her that he's going to be careful out there. Arata's internally hyping himself up, convinced all that grinding leveled him up enough to solo a silver rank fissure. No time to waste, Aoi and Arata make a beeline for the coordinates where the anomaly is set to spawn. Right on cue, reality tears open in front of them, manifesting the ominous glow of a confirmed silver rank fissure. Aoi picks up on Arata's buzzing energy and checks if he's holding it together, but he flashes a confident grin, assuring her he's solid. He's ready to crush this thing. Without hesitation, the duo sprints straight into the rift to clear the dungeon. They teleport into crumbling ancient ruins. Arata questions the fissure's logic, while Aoi explains it's a monster habitat, though nobody really knows the full lore behind these dimensions. Aoi drops some knowledge mentioning that usually the zone collapses when the boss dies, but rumor has it some of these places are permanent. Arata is shook by that theory. He starts commenting on how quiet it is with no mobs around, effectively jinxing it as a rumble shakes the ground. Suddenly, a massive level 25 sandworm bursts from the earth beneath them. The beast flashes a maw full of razor-sharp teeth before diving back into the sand like a horrifying dolphin. Aoi shouts at Arata, telling him to rely on his ears. She focuses, straining her hearing to track the subterranean movement, and realizes the worm is locking onto their position for a strike. Worse, she senses multiple tremors. It's a pack. They're completely surrounded before the fight even starts. Aoi freezes up, panic setting in, but Arata keeps his cool. "Relax," he says, slamming his hand on the floor and flooding the ground with his shadow. He's turned the battlefield into a seismic sensor. Through the darkness, Arata can feel every vibration, giving him total awareness of exactly where the enemy plans to breach. He predicts the attack angle, perfectly locking onto the exit point. The second the sandworm's ugly mug breaks the surface, Arata's shadow blade is already swinging. Clean decapitation. He realizes this is going to be a cakewalk as long as he keeps tracking their spawn points before they breach. Aoi is stunned by his reflexes, laughing that he's basically playing a deadly game of whack-a-mole. Arata reveals he's been theory crafting this move the entire time he was stuck recovering in the infirmary. He visualized spreading his shadow thin like a web to act as a sensory network. Since he was bedridden, mental training was the only way to level up his skills. He's hyped that his theory worked on the first try. Arata realizes his shadow powers aren't just for damage. The utility potential is insane. Aoi gives him props for the big brain strategy, confident that these worms are toast. Arata rinses and repeats the tactic, speed-running through the mob until every last sandworm is deleted, clearing the path to the boss. But he warns Aoi to stay frosty. They enter a zone that looks like a tomb, and Aoi's instincts scream danger. She barely gets the warning out. when a massive, lethal stinger erupts from the sand behind them. Arata thinks it's just another worm, but Aoi shuts that down fast. She warns him that stinger is a one-shot kill, if it lands. The stinger strikes again from Arata's blind spot, but he's not getting caught lacking this time. He spins around and severs the limb with his shadow blade before it connects. Arata taunts the hidden beast, telling it that hiding underground is useless, since his shadow sensor is already mapping the entire floor. Aoi praises his foresight to prep the battlefield in advance, admitting he's leveled up big time. Arata agrees he's stronger, but having Aoi there is the real buff. He calculates that with his current stats. He could probably take on silver ranks or higher without breaking a sweat. Suddenly, the boss decides to stop hiding, and bursts out an enraged, level 29 Death Scorpion. Arata already chopped off its main weapon, the stinger, but those massive pincers are still a serious threat. The scorpion swings a giant claw, but Aoi jumps in, tanking the hit with her shield to save him. She's buckling under the monster's raw power, and Arata sees she can't hold it forever. He knows he has to draw aggro, before her defense shatters. He charges the beast, but the scorpion spots him, and snaps its other claw, nearly slicing him in two. Relying on pure agility, he dodges and suddenly finds himself floating in midair, standing on a water platform Aoi conjured just in time. She yells at him to use the high ground, to get the drop on the monster. Arata thanks her for the assist, leaps off the platform, and delivers a critical strike, slicing the scorpion's head off and showering the room in green blood. Aoi rushes over, absolutely beaming. She lets out a heavy breath, pure relief washing over her. Arata feels it too. That nightmare scorpion is finally history. Let's bounce, he tells her, ready to head back. But Aoi freezes. The vibe shifts instantly. Something feels wrong. Where's the pop-up, she asks. The dungeon clear notification isn't showing up. That blue screen always appears. This is uncharted territory. Logic says, boss down, fissure closes. But reality checks in the walls aren't dissolving. The dungeon is still active. Arata finally clocks what she's getting at. He turns to her confused. Yo, is it actually possible for a fissure to just not close? Suddenly, a chill runs down Arata's spine. Pure dread. A voice drips from the shadows. Sitting right there, some creepy figure with long, elf-like ears. Dark purple energy oozes off him like toxic waste. Straight up demon vibes. Fun show, he sneers. Loved watching you smash my pet scorpion. Arata and Aoi are absolutely shook. The boss is dead. How is there still a magic beast chilling right here? And the kicker. It talks. Fluent speech. The freak brags about playing puppet master using beasts to wipe out slayers for sport. Aoi's blood runs cold. It hits her. This guy wasn't just watching. He was piloting the boss. That is totally unheard of. Let me give you a demo, the beast smirks. He eyes the scattered scorpion claws littering the ground like trash. Dark magic surges. The dead scorpion parts twitch. He orders the carcass to rise and fight to the bitter end. Arata realizes the horror this guy controls scraps. The reanimated scorpion lunges at them with zero hesitation. They panic spam long-range attacks, blasting the undead bug into dust. The elf dude just watches, looking bored out of his mind. You two would make better dolls, he muses. Aoi's mind races. What tier of nightmare fuel did they just stumble into? Snap. Just like that, the creepy guy rips open a new fissure. Come on in, he taunts. Doors open. I've got a surprise for you inside. Arata can't process it. They just found a fissure. Inside a fissure. Stepping through the portal, Arata pieces it together. This guy is hijacking dungeons and hoarding bosses like collectibles. This is it, Aoi whispers, scanning the area. This has to be his main base. The energy here is way nastier than anything they've seen. But Aoi knows the score: kill the puppet master or the original dungeon never closes. Realization hits hard. The tutorial is over. The real war starts now. Nerves fried, hearts pounding, they step deeper into the abyss. No turning back. It looks like a twisted Gothic castle. Arata wonders if this tunnels back to the human world. High above, unseen eyes lock onto them. Whoosh, a beast drops from the ceiling blade, swinging for Arata's neck. A literal execution move. Arata spins on a dime, reflexes on God mode. He jams his cannon right into the beast's chest. Boom. Blasts a massive hole through it. Enemy down. But then they look up. They are completely surrounded. And these aren't scrubs. Every single one is a boss-class monster. And they're all dancing to the elf dude's strings. Arata disgustedly shakes his head. This guy has no shame turning kings into pawns. Aoi grits her teeth. We can take them. Arata's sword becomes a blur, slicing through the mob. But for every one he drops, they just keep coming. Relentless. Stamina is tanking fast. They realize they can't grind this out. They have to ignore the mobs. Head of the snake Aoi points to the throne. They burst through the crowd, sprinting straight for the main target. The puppet army swarms behind them, but they slide into the throne room. There he sits, waiting. He's not alone though. Two nightmare knights flank him, wielding swords the size of surfboards. Cute, the villain drawls. You broke my toys. Good thing I have a warehouse full of spares. Aoi calls his bluff. Doesn't matter. We flatline you, the puppets drop too. The dude cackles. Big talk for such little trash. Arata cuts the chatter. Why? Why go through all this effort to collect monsters? Because it's fun, he smiles cruelly. Total control, making powerful things bow to me, that's the ultimate high. And humans, he continues. Same deal. That's why you two are going to look great in my collection. I'm strong. You're weak. It's my right to own you. Nature's law, baby. Arata goes quiet. Then he drops the bomb. Is there a way to turn a human? Who turned into a magic beast back to normal? Aoi gasps. She knows exactly what he's asking. The demon's eyes light up. He clocks it immediately. Ooh, someone special you're trying to save. Arata roars, demanding an answer. The villain smirks. Maybe I'll tell you, if you can kill me. Boom. He unleashes his aura, manipulating the very blood in the air. Razor-sharp blood projectiles lock onto Arata, like heat-seeking missiles. He deflects the heavy fire, but the stragglers shred his defenses. He's reeling from the impact when a knight closes the distance in a blur, raising a massive broadsword. Ready to execute him, but Aoi pulls a clutch save. She deploys a barrier just in time, tanking the heavy hit for him. But that move drains her HP bar instantly. Arata scrambles to check on her panic in his eyes, but she waves him off, masking her pain with a forced smile. Aoi demands he go handle the main boss demon while she keeps the armored mobs busy. Arata swears he won't let her bleed another drop, turning his rage into fuel as he bulldozes toward the demon, with absolute resolve to end this nightmare. Aoi pops a quick self-heal spell, just enough to get her legs working again so she can kite the knights and link back up with Arata later. She knows. The only win condition is wiping these beasts in one shot. She dumps her entire mana pool into a single skill, betting it all on this gamble. She channels the energy and detonates a massive blast that turns the knights into scrap metal, but the armor piles just glitch and reassemble instantly. Aoi doesn't even flinch. She figured these guys had a respawn mechanic. She squares up, running on fumes, ready to hold the line, while Arata closes the gap on the demon lord. The demon notices Arata's MacGyver trick, mixing soot into his wounds to clot the bleeding. He's actually impressed, grinning as he asks if Arata hails from the same dimension he does. Arata freezes, completely thrown off, realizing the villain is identifying his unique ability system. But the demon cuts the lore drop short. He's bored of talking. He wants to see whose build is more broken, his blood magic or Arata's soot. He launches a crimson torrent, but Arata scatters the liquid with a point-blank burst soot cannon. The demon switches tactics immediately. He snaps a blood whip forward, testing Arata's reflexes. Arata counters instantly, slicing the projectile cleanly with his shadow blade. This fierce resistance just hypes the demon up. He starts spamming the whip attacks, laughing maniacally, but Arata keeps parrying every single strike. The demon taunts him, daring him to stop holding back and unleash his full kit. Arata realizes this is a trap. If this stamina battle drags on, the demon will grind him into dust. The demon yawns, calling Arata a basic, boring fighter. Then he decides to play dirty, threatening to bypass Arata and slaughter Aoi instead. He redirects his blood arsenal straight at the healer, who is already struggling to survive the night horde. Arata spins around, screaming Aoi's name in terror, but that split-second distraction is fatal. A blood spear impales him from behind. Shocked and breathless, he coughs up red and faceplants into the dirt. The demon mocks him for the rookie mistake of taking his eyes off the enemy. Now he prepares to turn Arata into his meat puppet, making good on his threat. He aims a finishing spike at Arata's heart, but Aoi flashes in out of nowhere to block the kill shot. The demon is officially triggered that she's ruining his fun, while Aoi acknowledges the villain's insane power level for dropping Arata so fast. She ignores the monster's trash talk and secretly begins channeling healing magic into Arata's unconscious body. The demon clocks the glowing aura and laughs, gaslighting her by saying Arata is only dead because he was, trying to protect her weak self. He tells her to save the mana, there's no point healing a corpse. His words slice deeper than any blade, blaming her for Arata's death. The trauma hits her like a truck, triggering memories of her sister Minato being butchered by a monster right before her eyes. She almost spirals into despair, but she snaps out of it, realizing the demon is just trying to tilt her mentally. The mission is simple: survive until Arata reboots. Giving up on him isn't even an option in her playbook. The demon decides to toy with his food. He lashes out with the blood whip, but Aoi deflects it with a swirling water shield. He cackles when he sees her element. Water, really. He keeps attacking, but her defense is impenetrable. She claps back, declaring that her water exists specifically to cleanse his filth. Her attribute isn't for DPS. It's the ultimate adapter capable of blending with anything. She didn't grind support mastery for nothing. That's when the demon realizes what's actually happening. Aoi is diluting his blood attacks with water, weakening their impact. He shrugs it off, figuring he'll just bleed more to overpower her. Aoi knows she can't keep this up. His raw output will eventually crush her. Suddenly, Arata's eyes snap open. Aoi doesn't hesitate, launching a compressed water bubble toward him. Mix this with your soot, she screams, setting up the combo. Arata catches the assist, but the demon scoffs, telling them it's game over regardless. He winds up his blood whip for one final devastating strike. But Arata isn't backing down. He meets the attack head-on, his blade surging with hydro energy that devours his own blood as fuel. Valgard freezes, totally shook by the power spike. What the demon didn't calculate is that water is the ultimate shapeshifter. It amplifies force instantly. Aoi reads the room, steps back, and leaves the stage to Arata. She yells for him to finish this nightmare. Arata doesn't hesitate. He activates Shadow Blade, blurring across the battlefield straight for the kill. Critical hit. He slashes right across the demon's chest. Blood sprays the arena, and for the first time, Valgard actually feels the weight of Arata's blow. The demon crashes hard onto the pavement, clutching his chest in agony. He grimaces, admitting Arata is a savage, the first human to ever make him bleed. Valgard's mind is racing. He's always the apex predator, the one holding all the cards, but the script just got flipped. Suddenly, a flashback hits Valgard. He remembers the moment he decided to leave his dimension. His underling begged him to stay, but Valgard's ego was too big. He was warned explicitly that the one thing he ignored was going to come back to haunt him. Now lying in the dirt, Valgard realizes the prophecy was legit. Karma really did come to collect exactly like his subordinate predicted. Arata looms over him desperate. He demands the secret, how to turn a magic beast back into a human. But Valgard just cackles. He reminds Arata of the deal he'd only talk if he lost. Arata snaps, screaming in pure rage, demanding the truth. He needs to know how to save his brother, and he needs to know right now. Valgard takes a deep, dramatic breath like he's about to drop some lore, but then psych. He switches up, laughing maniacally and saying it's a pipe dream. He drops the bombshell. Once a human transforms into a magic beast, there is no reset button. It is game over. Arata's face goes ghost white, pure devastation. Valgard mocks his despair, savoring the moment until Arata watches in horror. As the demon disintegrates into dust, Arata's status screen dings. He jumps from level 15 to level 21 instantly, but he just stands there frozen. Aoi steps up behind him, checking if he's good. Suddenly, a shiny object glints on the ground. Aoi grabs it, waving for Arata to look. This is huge. Mobs never drop loot like this after a boss fight. Aoi hypes it up, thinking it might be a special ability. She tosses it to Arata, and the moment he touches it, the system confirms it. New skill acquired. Vassalization. It's the exact same cheat code Valgard was spamming. Arata stares at it, completely unimpressed. The system breakdown is grim. This skill lets him resurrect any dead entity as a loyal vassal to do his bidding. The catch: the resurrected pawns have zero skills. They're just mindless drones following orders. Suddenly the dimension cracks, and they warp back to reality. The fissure fades behind them. Arata doesn't look like he just caught a dub. He looks like he lost everything. Valgard's last words are looping in his brain, but he refuses to accept that hopeless reality. Aoi picks up on his vibe immediately. She tells him to breathe, insisting that they'll find a workaround if they grind together. Arata finally admits that he's not quitting on his brother. Even if the cure doesn't exist yet, he's going to find a way. Back at the guild HQ, Aoi debriefs Rei on the whole raid. She feels for Arata, explaining that his power signature is disturbingly similar to Valgard's. She proposes a new plan: capture Arata's brother and put him under 24-hour surveillance. She vouches hard for Arata, telling Rei that despite the dark power source, the guy is a hero, not a threat. Aoi tells Rei she's seen him in action, she trusts him, and if he ever does go rogue, she promises she'll take him out herself. Rei sees the fire in Aoi's eyes and agrees. But first, she orders Aoi to leave Arata alone so the guy can finally get some sleep. She promises to run the plan by the association higher-ups. Meanwhile, Arata drags himself back to his old apartment. The place is a disaster zone, dust everywhere, looking like a total rat's nest where no human has set foot in ages. The crushing reality settles in as Arata paces his empty house. His brother might be gone for good. Mid-thought reality cracks open. A dimensional fissure rips through the air right in his living room, leaving Arata stunned. A dungeon gate inside his own bedroom. His gut screams one thing: his brother has to be in there. Stepping into the void, the landscape feels eerily familiar. Running on pure instinct now, he charges forward, desperate for answers. Minutes pass, in dead silence. No monsters, just empty dread. He stumbles upon a wreck, the floor pulverized by sheer brute force. Ahead, a heavy door awaits. It's barricaded with debris. Not wasting a second, Arata draws his weapon and shatters the obstacle with a single slash. He rushes inside and freezes. There he is. But his brother isn't human anymore. He's morphed into a level 38 boss monster. The beast stares blankly, no recognition in its eyes. Overwhelmed, Arata breaks down, tears streaming as relief and horror collide. "I've been looking everywhere for you," he chokes out, never imagining their reunion would happen in a hellhole like this. Dropping his guard, Arata approaches the creature like it's just a normal Tuesday. "Come on, bro, let's just go home." The response, a massive energy blast. Arata gets ragdolled across the room, slamming hard into the concrete. He refuses to draw his sword against family, pleading his case. But the beast doesn't care. It winds up for another strike. Dodging the blow, Arata vaults onto the monster's shoulder, screaming into its ear, praying. His voice can pierce through the madness. No use. He gets swatted away like a fly, crashing into the floor with a bone-rattling thud. Is his brother gone forever? Suddenly, a dark option surfaces, the vassalization skill he looted from Valgard. But the activation requirement is twisted. The target must be dead. Paralyzed by the dilemma, Arata takes another brutal hit. He hits the dirt, lacking the will to get back up. Guilt crushes him harder than the blows he failed to save him. The monster charges, closing in for the kill. Just as the death blow falls, a high-pressure water cannon blasts the beast out of nowhere, sending it skidding across the ground. Scrambling to his feet, Arata whips around. That's when he hears Takatora's sneering voice. Pathetic, as always, loser. The guy poses like he's the main character, claiming he swooped in to save the day. Arata doesn't hesitate. He leaps between the intruder and the monster. Back off, this isn't your fight. Takatora is annoyed. Arata is defending a mob until the pieces click. Wait. That monster is your brother. Why are you even here? Arata demands. Takatora just smirks, admitting he's been tracking Arata's every move. You're Navy Guild property now, he gloats. I see everything you do. Realizing the threat, Arata summons his Shadow Blade, ready to throw hands. Takatora manifests, his Ice Blade eyes gleaming. Defending a monster. Perfect. Now I have a legal excuse to put you down. He plans to execute Arata right here and call it justice. Arata swings with killing intent, but Takatora parries it effortlessly. You think you're strong enough to play Guardian? He's not a monster, Arata screams. Ignoring him, Takatora fires a homing projectile straight past Arata, targeting the brother. Panic spikes, Arata spins around to check on his kin. Rule number 1, eyes on the enemy, Takatora mocks. Furiously, Arata lashes out, trying to slice the guy in two. Takatora deflects the barrage like it's nothing. Don't get cocky, kid, he laughs, enjoying the show. I'll butcher you and that beast together. Arata is forced back, but he plants his feet, acting as a human shield. He's my brother, Arata roars. He's ready to die right here, to protect the person who shares his most specific memories. Fueled by pure resolve, Arata tightens his grip and launches another desperate charge. The strike carries real weight this time, forcing Takatora to actually dodge. Still, the villain sneers, mocking Arata's poverty. It's over for your pathetic bloodline, he spits. Arata freezes. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Takatora's grin widens. Oh, I ran into 2 other monsters earlier. He's talking about Arata's parents. Yeah, I slaughtered them both, he casually admits. Great XP farm though, no regrets. Something snaps inside Arata. A terrifying aura explodes from his body, but Takatora just yawns. Time to die, Takatora deadpans, unleashing a lethal ice technique. An ice hydra with 3 heads lunges forward. Arata doesn't flinch. He swings his blade with earth-shattering force. He shatters 2 of the heads instantly but misses the third. Even Takatora looks impressed. Okay, you've actually leveled up. It's still not enough damage. That final head rockets toward Arata like a heat-seeking missile. Arata freezes, realizing his agility stats are too low to dodge this one. Just as he's about to get deleted, his brother leaps in for the clutch save. Big Bro smashes that head into pixels, leaving Arata shook. But the beast doesn't stop there. He charges straight for Takatora. He lands a hit so heavy it sends Takatora flying, embedding him into the concrete wall. Arata watches totally stunned, wondering if his brother has actually identified the real threat. Takatora peels himself off the wall, staring down the creature. Even the villain is glitched out by this. He refuses to believe a monster would tank damage for a human. Shaking off the confusion, Takatora decides to wipe the board. He's going to kill Arata and the brother. Arata realizes his only win condition is locking down Takatora's insane speed. A flashback hits him, Aoi's water bubble technique. He decides to run that play again. He slams his palm on the floor, pumping out thick soot. Takatora thinks it's just a smokescreen to hide Arata's panic, so he tries to wash it away with a hydroblast. Big mistake. The soot mixes with the water, turning into a sticky cement-like sludge instantly. Takatora is immobilized in the goo, and Arata grins. His trap card worked perfectly. Seeing the opening, Arata knows this is the moment to shut him down. He lunges for the finish, but before he can connect, Takatora bursts free from the sludge. Takatora winds up to slice Arata in half, but teleport. The brother manifests right behind the enemy. Before Takatora can react, Arata's brother claps his massive hands around him, triggering a sonic boom explosion. Arata is hyped, eyes wide, thinking his brother actually clutched the win. But the celebration is cut short when he sees the beast coughing up blood. The hope drains from Arata's face as Takatora steps out of the smoke unbothered and slices the brother like he's made of wet paper. Arata screams, but the lag is real. It's too late. Takatora cuts the brother down to his very soul. Arata collapses to his knees. As his brother disintegrates into digital dust right before his eyes, he's in denial until a system notification pops up, fissure cleared. Cut to Arata back in his room sobbing, while Takatora looms over him like a final boss, rubbing salt in the wound. He mocks Arata, saying he warned him not to get cocky. He keeps trash talking, reminding him that unlocking a skill doesn't make him a winner. Arata whispers one single sentence barely audible, promising Takatora that he's going to end him. Tears streaming, Arata stands up, and suddenly a terrifying pitch-black aura erupts around him. The shadows flood the room, suffocating the light. Takatora feels the pressure, but his ego is too big to care. He's not scared. He's humbled Arata before, and he's ready to put him back in the dirt. Takatora announces he's ending this with one strike. But before he can twitch a muscle, he's swallowed by a cloud of soot. In the blink of an eye, Arata swings his sword with enough force to launch Takatora clean out of the room. Takatora hits the ground, agony crawling over every inch of his body, mind racing on how he's losing to a supposed noob. Arata stalks over to him deadpan, telling him that killing him once won't ever be enough to settle the score. Takatora is actually shivering. He's getting legitimate chills from a guy he thought was weak. Still, he forces himself up, determined to finish the job. He fires off his ultimate attack, but Arata's shadows devour the energy instantly. Before Takatora can process the glitch, he's stapled to the ground by a dozen of Arata's shadow blades. Arata doesn't look human anymore as he walks toward his prey, asking if he's done fighting already. True fear kicks in, and Takatora realizes he needs to retreat immediately. This only fuels Arata's rage. He blasts a shockwave of aura that nearly knocks Takatora unconscious. He raises his blade for the execution, but Aoi's shield materializes over the victim. Aoi jumps into the fray, screaming at Arata, swearing she won't let him kill Takatora. She can feel the monstrous energy radiating off Arata, but her barrier is paper thin against this power. Arata's shadow blade shatters the shield and slashes her arm, dealing critical damage. Aoi is terrified, wondering what kind of demon Arata is harboring inside. Even though she's completely outclassed, she stands her ground to prevent Arata from becoming a murderer. She knows she can't win this fight physically. She's terrified that if Arata powers up any further, it's game over for everyone. While bleeding out on the floor, Takatora still has the nerve to mock them, bragging that the association will swoop in once they detect the chaos. Aoi ignores him, desperately trying to figure out how to snap Arata out of this berserk mode. But she's failing, as Arata leaks more aura, crumbling nearby buildings into rubble. High above, Rei watches the destruction from her office, deciding it's time to intervene and put Arata down. Meanwhile, at the Jade Sky Guild, Takuto gets the intel on Arata's rampage. He decides to step onto the field and remove Arata from the streets personally. Arata continues his warpath, unleashing a killer aura that shakes the ground. He locks onto Aoi, seconds before he lands the killing blow. Rei bursts onto the scene. She intercepts Arata's attack with a blast of her own energy, shouting a quick apology to Aoi for the delay. Rei sets her down gently, telling her to recover while she handles the beast. Rei instantly realizes something snapped in Arata. Some external trigger ignited this blind rage, causing him to go completely berserk. Suddenly, Takuto crashes the party. The guy looks absolutely pumped to throw hands with Arata, but Rei steps in to check him. Takuto drops a bombshell. The association sees this entire situation way differently than they do. Rei stiffens, demanding to know exactly what the higher-ups are plotting. But Takuto stays silent on the details. He instead teases that Rei and Aoi seem a little too emotionally invested in Arata already. Rei fires back, claiming she's just doing her duty as a guildmaster. The tension spikes as they bicker, distracting them while Arata lunges at Takuto from the blind spot. Rei screams a warning, but Takuto, he doesn't even flinch. Arata takes a wild, frantic swing, but Takuto's body dissolves into a swirl of petals. Rei is stunned, but before she can process the visual trick, Takuto slams Arata with his signature move, Ethereal Dance. Arata hits the dirt hard. Rei's jaw drops. She never thought Takuto could drop him that easily. She immediately shifts into a combat stance, warning Takuto that if he's here to execute Arata, he'll have to go through her. Takuto just smirks, assuring her that putting Arata in a grave isn't on his to-do list today. Why kill a guy who's such a fascinating mystery? Suddenly, Arata scrambles back up, letting out a bone-chilling roar, and starts sucking in mana like a vacuum. Takuto doesn't even blink, figuring Arata is siphoning energy from the magic beasts nearby. The berserker locks eyes on Takuto and manifests an arsenal of weapons to obliterate him. Takuto holds his ground, genuinely impressed, but he spots the flaw. Arata has zero control. He's just letting the power run rampant. Takuto shoots a glance at Rei, signaling it's time to end this little game. Rei presses him again about the association's endgame, but Takuto ignores the question. A blinding green aura erupts around Takuto. Before Arata can twitch, Takuto's energy wraps around him, locking him down tight. Rei starts to panic, but Takuto cuts her off. Relax, he's just napping. With that, he teleports away, taking Arata's unconscious body with him. Rei is left alone, terrified of what the association has in store for the boy. Back at the association HQ, AI finally returns after clearing out the civilians. She freezes. Arata is gone. Rei struggles to find the words to explain he's been captured. Meanwhile, Arata jolts awake, finding himself restrained in a dark cell. He's barely processing his surroundings when a guy with a total psycho vibe steps into the light. Holding a whip and wearing a twisted smile, the interrogator tells Arata the fun is just getting started. Meanwhile, Takatora is fuming that Arata slipped through his fingers. He swears on his life he'll crush the kid alongside the Heavenly Five and claim his spot as the absolute strongest. Even though he's salty, he didn't get the kill himself. He takes sick pleasure in knowing the association is about to put Arata through hell. Later, Rei manages to visit Arata in the dungeon where he's being worked over. She begs him to open up, hoping a confession might lighten his sentence. But Arata looks her dead in the eye and says he doesn't give a damn what happens to him anymore. Mid-conversation, Rei's comms light up with an emergency alert. 3 Silver Slayers vanished in a rift, and Aoi dove in to save them. Rei is floored. Aoi is supposed to be recovering. She's barely standing, yet she's out there fighting. Rei laments how Aoi always pushes herself past the breaking point, ignoring her own limits. Given the threat level, Rei knows Aoi is walking straight into a death trap. Rewind a bit to Slayer HQ. Dojo dials in the Golden Slayers, apologizing for interrupting their VIP schedules. But he cuts the pleasantries. This is a code red. Dojo drops the hammer, announcing they've captured Arata. Ryo is stunned, immediately pleading with the president, insisting Arata isn't a villain. They can't just cage him without evidence or a fair trial. Dojo lists the rap sheet engaging in uncontrolled combat and leveling half the city. But the nail in the coffin, Arata, shattered the association's laws and destroyed public trust. He adds that Arata's weird energy likely comes from the Magai, and a lot of Slayers are already calling for his execution. Ryo and Rei turn pale. Rei steps up, telling Dojo that this is on her. As his Navy Guild supervisor, she's taking full responsibility for his actions. Dojo shuts it down. They're going to interrogate Arata to find out what he really is and expose his connection to the Magai. Dojo drops a bombshell. Arata's link to the Magai isn't a curse. It's their only key to unlocking the truth. Shion connects the dots instantly. That means an interrogator is already grilling the poor kid, and she can't help but feel bad for him. Dojo cuts the chatter, warning the Gold Slayers to stay frosty because the Magai are about to pull some shady moves. Rei finally realizes Arata is in a nightmare scenario. Cut to the dark, damp underground dungeon, reserved for first-class felons, where Inquisitor Ikazo Kamigari is having way too much fun tormenting Arata. He demands Arata spill every secret he has on the Magai, warning him that playtime is officially over. I'm not going soft, Kamigari hisses, threatening to strike Arata so hard his flesh will peel right off the bone. Face barely recognizable, Arata swears he knows zero. That sets Kamigari off and he snaps his whip back, ready to strike. Right before the blow lands, Rei bursts in. She screams for him to freeze, flashing her credentials. She orders Kamigari to stand down. The Inquisitor blinks, shocked to see high-ranking royalty in such a disgusting hole. He eyes her suspiciously, asking if she has clearance. Rei doesn't flinch, lying straight to his face that she's approved. Get out, she commands. I need a private word. Kamigari obeys but tosses a threat over his shoulder about breaking protocol. Once he's gone, Rei assesses the damage. You look like hell, she says, asking if he recalls going full monster mode before his rampage. Arata looks confused. His memory cuts out right after Takatora murdered his brother. He remembers fighting back then. Total blackout. Rei drops the heavy news. Aoi was the one who stepped in to stop him from becoming a murderer. Arata's eyes go wide with horror as Rei continues. She got caught in the crossfire. She's in medbay right now. Arata crumples, guilt washing over him like a tidal wave. I deserve this pain, he mutters, convinced his life is over. He's hit rock bottom, haunted by the memory of watching his brother, the only family he had, die while he stood there helpless. Mid-conversation, a red alert flashes. Aoi has entered the rift for a rescue mission. Rei's expression turns frantic. Arata demands answers. Comms are down with the Silver Squad, Rei explains rapidly. She forced her way into the rift, and she's not even fully healed yet. Rei moves to call Dojo, but Arata starts hyperventilating, losing grip. Rei grabs his shoulder firmly. Listen, you can't rewrite history, but as long as you breathe as a Slayer, there's still something only you can do. Voice cracking, Arata whispers, I've got nothing left. Rei looks him in the eye. I can't say if you're a saint or a sinner, but I felt something real in you. Crack, she shatters his restraints. I trust my gut. You're free. But suddenly the door slams open. Kamigari is back. Just check the logs, he sneers. No permit. You played me, Rei. Kamigari glares. Guildmaster or not, you lied to protect a criminal. I'm done playing nice. He unfurls his whip, stepping closer. For your information, the magnetic field down here cancels all skills. And this whip, it breaks the sound barrier. Basically, I hold all the aces. Since you're powerless without your magic. Kamigari is practically drooling at the chance to beat down a Gold Slayer. He lunges aiming for the kill shot, but Rei doesn't even blink. Thwack, one casual kick to the chest, and Kamigari's internal organs play musical chairs. As he collapses, Rei smirks. I'll file that permit later. Dusting herself off, Rei gets a grim update. No backup can reach Aoi right now. She turns to Arata. Regretting the past fixes nothing. But the choice you make right now, that defines who you really are. The words hit Arata like a truck. He pauses, letting it sink in. He might have lost everything, but he remembers the squad that stood by him. He clenches his fist. I'm never losing anyone again. His voice is steel. I'm saving Aoi. No matter what. Rei grins proud. Good. We all come back alive. Big barbecue on me. Arata sprints, hunting for the exit. But he rounds a corner and slams into a wall of trouble. 3 guards block his path, ready to tackle him. Arata freezes, mind racing on how to bypass them. Suddenly, Rio slides into the frame. Heard you got locked up, had to come see the show, he teases. Rio grins. So jailbreak time. What's the plan? Arata locks eyes with him. I'm doing what I have to do. Rio raises an eyebrow. This about your brother. Arata shuts him down cold. He refuses to listen to any safety talk. The only thing that matters right now is saving his comrade. He looks Rio dead in the eye and says he's willing to burn it all down, even himself, to make that happen. Rio freezes, stunned by the sheer intensity of Arata's resolve that Old Spark is back brighter than ever. Stepping up, Rio decides to shoulder the burden himself. He faces the officials, waving off their concerns with a smirk. He's got Arata under his personal watch. To keep them off their backs, he drops the ultimate clearance code. Just tell Dojo who called the shots. With the path cleared, Rio signals the green light. It's go time. Eyes wide with respect, Arata doesn't waste a second sprinting after his mentor without looking back. Moments later, they hit the breach. Rio cuts to the chase, demanding to know exactly why Arata's crew is in such deep trouble. Arata drops the bomb, total radio silence from multiple slayers. Rio frowns. This is a silver-class fisher. It should have been sealed shut by now. Panic starts to set in. Arata's mind races, terrified of what grim fate might have befallen Aoi inside that void. No time for second guesses, they plunge into the abyss. They land in a dense, suffocating jungle environment. But Rio spots something off. The path is paved with empty space. The fodder is gone, meaning only the big bad boss remains. Arata drops to a crouch, syncing with his suit. He tells Rio to hold tight. He's initiating a deep scan for the target. Rio raises an eyebrow. Enemy detection. The kid has seriously leveled up his arsenal since their last team-up. Arata is locked in. When suddenly, a beast hurtles out of the brush. Rio doesn't even flinch, swatting the creature out of the air with a casual, devastating backhand. The impact detonates with overwhelming firepower. Another threat lunges from the flank, aiming for Arata, but the kid is already losing his patience. Furious that his scan was interrupted, Arata slices the beast in two with zero mercy. Rio watches, genuinely impressed by the display. The kid isn't the rookie he used to be. Clearing the distraction, Arata refocuses his senses to track their prey. A chilling signal hits his radar. Something isn't right. Arata warns Rio to stay sharp, danger is close. From the shadows, a silhouette stumbles forward. It's one of the missing Silver Slayers. Hope lights up Arata's face. She's beat up and bloody, but she's alive. They sprint to her aid, demanding a sitrep. Gasping, she manages to warn them that one of their own has mutated into a monster. Before she can finish, a transformed Slayer lunges from the darkness and sinks its teeth into a Rio and Arata skid to a halt, paralyzed by the horror. She starts hacking violently, and a suffocating dark aura erupts from her skin. The mutation begins instantly. Arata loses it. He just watched a survivor turn into a beast in seconds. Rio's expression darkens. They're dealing with an infectious type, the worst-case scenario. The now monstrous Slayer shrieks and dives straight for Arata's throat. It's a kill shot, but Arata freezes. He can't strike back. The monster overlays with the memory of his brother. His weapon hand shakes uncontrollably in the face of death. Rio sees him stalling and roars at him to wake up. The claws swipe inches from his neck. Rio yanks him back just before Arata gets decapitated. Rio checks him, but the kid is broken, shaking so violently that cold sweat is pouring off him. I can't kill people, Arata stammers. Rio grabs him. That thing isn't a person anymore. The beasts charge. Rio steps up, engulfing his fists in flames, and incinerates both threats with a single explosive strike. As the ash settles, Rio explains the grim reality. This is the boss's power. It corrupts humans into monsters, and those monsters hunt more humans to spread the plague. Arata tries to argue, but Rio cuts him off cold. The other Slayers probably hesitated just like Arata did. That mercy got them killed. Rio finally understands how an entire squad got wiped out. Wreathed in flames, Rio lays out the stakes. If a single one of these infected carriers escapes the rift, it's game over. The devastation would dwarf any cursed soul attack. This ends here inside the fissure. No exits. Suddenly the air gets heavy. A massive, overwhelming presence crashes onto the scene. The boss has arrived. It's a nightmare of gnashing teeth and twisted flesh. But standing next to it, its Aoi Arata lights up thinking she's safe, but the relief is shattered instantly. Dark energy pours from her body, ripping a scream of pure agony from her throat. She collapses, panic mode engaging. Arata rushes to her side, screaming for a healer. Aoi grabs him weakly. It's too late for magic. With tears in her eyes, she apologizes for failing the team. She reveals her arm, a grotesque infected bite mark pulses on her skin. The corruption spreads visible veins across her face. Fighting the transformation, she smiles, telling Arata that meeting him was a blessing. Brief as it was, it meant everything. She entrusts the future to him. Arata screams in denial, watching his friend slip away. He begs her not to turn, clinging to the delusion that he can fix this. Aoi tightens her grip on his hands, silencing his panic. She needs him to listen. He has to start believing in his own power. No more hesitation. With her final breath, she tells him she knows he'll become the greatest slayer of them all. And then, she's gone, collapsing into the darkness. Her last words echo like a curse in Arata's mind. The agony tears a raw scream from his throat, snapping Ryo's attention instantly. Ryo drops the hard truth one bite and it's game over. U-turn period. Suddenly the boss monster rushes Ryo, but he crosses his arms, tanking the hit. Meanwhile, Arata is frozen, eyes wide, watching Aoi warp into something terrifying. Her heart stopped. So why is the mutation still spreading? It doesn't make sense. But Arata isn't the type to give up. His brain is going a mile a minute, hunting for a loophole, a cure, anything to halt the process. He's deep in the zone. When Aoi snaps to her feet, classic undead style. She's unrecognizable now, a total stranger, but Arata refuses to accept what's standing right in front of him. While still grappling with the massive boss, Ryo roars at Arata, "Wake up, that's a magic beast now. Bury your feelings or you're dead." He orders Arata to finish her. Once humanity is lost to the beast side, there's no respawn button. It's permanent. Right on cue, Aoi launches herself at Arata, throwing a lethal punch. He instinctively tries to counter, but he can't bring himself to hurt her. Instead of striking, he leaps back, barely dodging her blow. "I can't do it," Arata yells, paralyzed by fear. Ryo realizes he has to step in, abandoning the boss fight, to take Aoi out himself. But Arata cuts him off, shielding her. "She's the only real teammate I've got." He can't just execute his friend. Ryo screams back, warning him that getting close to that thing is a suicide mission. "She's gone, Arata. That's not a human." But Arata shuts down the truth. They're locked in this heated standoff. When the boss monster looms behind them, seizing the distraction for a cheap shot, Ryo's combat instincts flare, and he yanks them to safety just in time. Ryo dives back into the boss battle, while Arata stands there overwhelmed, muttering about how he can't handle another loss. Desperate, he cycles through every option in his inventory to fix this mess. Then it hits him that new skill, vassalization. It's designed to revive the dead and bind them to his will. It's an escape route, but the morality of using it on Aoi eats at him. Still, he decides a shadow of Aoi is better than a dead Aoi. At least she'd still be by his side. Arata crushes his doubts and triggers the skill. He has to do this because he refuses to let another loved one die. The skill slams into Aoi, engulfing her in a sinister dark purple aura. A system ping announces the transformation is complete. Then something totally unexpected happens. Aoi, looking radically transformed, drops to one knee and bows to Arata like a knight serving her liege. Another window pops up. She's now a half-demon named Chiharu Toyo, officially listed as his vassal. Arata approaches cautiously. "Aoi, you okay?" The skill definitely worked. But her energy feels alien, nothing like the girl he knew. He realizes he halted the beast infection. But the cost was her humanity. Ryo spins around, still shouting, "I told you that thing isn't human anymore." "She's my vassal now," Arata claps back. Ryo freezes, completely floored by the news, wondering where a rookie pulled a skill like that from. Meanwhile, Arata clings to hope. Since she didn't go full monster, maybe there's a way to reverse this down the road. Suddenly, Aoi's face twists into pure rage. She blurs into motion, charging straight for the boss. She goes for a slash, but the boss chomps down on her arm. But here's the kicker. Aoi doesn't even flinch. The infection can't hurt what's already turned. She ignores the bite and returns the favor, driving a brutal punch into the boss's throat. Arata joins the fray, leaping in with a massive powered-up slash, and cleaves the monster cleanly in two. The boss disintegrates into dust. Victory screen pops up, boss defeated. The dungeon rift is set to close once they report back to the guild. Rei stands there, jaw dropped. She can't reconcile this demon girl with her friend. "What happened to Aoi?" she stammers. Ryo explains the situation. Aoi was seconds away from becoming a mindless beast when they found her, a victim of the boss's bite. Arata steps in, revealing he used vassalization, a rare drop he picked up from that earlier mob. He didn't want to resort to dark arts, he tells Rei, his voice shaking, but it was this or a grave. He explains that by binding her as a vassal, he halted the mutation. Now she's alive, but under his absolute command. Rei is overwhelmed, brain frying from the info dump. and she timidly whispers Aoi. To everyone's shock, Aoi looks up and replies, Rei. The whole squad is shook. The room goes dead silent as Aoi speaks, leaving everyone shook. Rei demands answers immediately, and the entity finally drops the act she's Toyoi. She admits she's a magic beast but drops a major bombshell. Aoi's consciousness is still locked deep inside her. She's a monster, yet she's breaking all the rules, because she can actually feel everyone's emotions, something a beast shouldn't do. Arata's eyes light up with a spark of hope. Aoi is alive, which changes absolutely everything. It means they have a fighting chance to bring her back. Rio, however, isn't buying the fairy tale just yet. He grills Arata, asking if he's seriously trusting a loose cannon like Toyoi, not to snap and go on a rampage. With fire in his eyes, Arata shuts down the doubt, declaring he's betting his entire life on keeping her in check. Rio crosses his arms, demanding receipts. How exactly does he plan to stop a magic beast if she decides to go feral? Rei flinches at the question. Rio's words sting, but deep down she knows he's dropping hard facts. Arata ignores the tension and turns to Toyoi, issuing a simple command. Go play with that cat in the corner. Zero hesitation. Toyoi beams with excitement, rushes over and starts gently petting the stray. Rei is absolutely floored. The monster fades away in her eyes, and all she sees is her best friend Aoi, loving on a kitten. Even Rio is stunned, because animals usually freak out around dark energy, but this cat is totally chill. Rio realizes this isn't just blind obedience. It's proof that Aoi's pure soul is still steering the ship. Toyoi scoops up the furball and marches straight toward Rio. Rio jumps back, startled. He stammers that he knows she's safe, but he clearly wants zero part of this interaction. Rei connects the dots instantly. The tough guy is terrified of cats. He tries to deny it, but Arata and Toyoi burst out laughing at the absurdity of a warrior afraid of a harmless kitty. Rei seizes the moment and asks Arata to take full custody of Toyoi, promising that she'll handle the association's politics so he doesn't have to worry. Arata accepts the responsibility. He knows they're playing the long game, and they're going to need Toyoi's raw power for the battles ahead, so keeping her close is a strategic necessity. He turns to his new ally, telling her it's time to suit up and support him in real combat. Toyoi's response is immediate and enthusiastic, pledging her loyalty as his vassal. Meanwhile, alarm bells are ringing at the association. Sensors are picking up massive, magnetic anomalies everywhere, signaling that a catastrophic rift is about to tear open. Dojo receives the intel and instantly triggers a code 0 to all guilds. He doesn't look shocked. Honestly, he's been waiting 17 years for this nightmare to return. He gazes at an old photo on his desk, a snapshot of his younger self with someone whose face is deliberately blurred out, a ghost from the past. The alert hits the Navy Guild, and Rei freezes. The moment those words Code 0 drop, a cold shiver runs down everyone's spine. Outside, the city is bustling with normal life, until the sky suddenly cracks open, freezing every civilian in their tracks. The veterans who survived 17 years ago realize instantly that history is repeating itself in the worst way possible. The rift widens, and a swarm of monsters pours out like a flood. Chaos erupts, screams fill the air as people scramble for their lives. Local slayers rush the scene trying to hold the line, but they are visibly shaken by the sheer volume of beasts spilling into the streets. Still, they lock in. It's their duty to protect the zone, no matter the odds. But within seconds, they are completely encircled. They realize they are totally screwed. There is no way to contain a breach this size. Just as the monsters lunge, the entire horde gets incinerated in a massive blast of flames. Through the smoke, the Gold Slayers emerge like legends. A wave of relief washes over the rookies. The cavalry has arrived just in time. But the danger isn't over. The rift's toxic aura is already mutating civilians into monsters. Rio takes charge, barking orders at the squad to get the innocent people to safety immediately. Once evacuation is underway, Rio turns to Rei. It's time to dive into the belly of the beast and crush the boss inside. Rei grabs his shoulder, warning him to stay sharp. Terrified of a repeat of the tragedy from 17 years ago, she wonders just how massive this dungeon is on the inside. Rio nods, assuring her he's not taking this lightly. He's heard the horror stories from the higher-ups. A million times he knows exactly what's at stake. Elsewhere, Dojo and Shion are gearing up to breach the rift. Dojo's face is stone cold. He tells Shion that failure isn't an option. They cannot let the past repeat itself. Shion smirks, teasing him, but her eyes show she's ready for war. They promise to handle business and clear the area fast. Meanwhile, Takuto is locking in, gearing up to breach the fissure. He's been itching for this moment. Just as he steps into the void, Arata and Toyoi roll up on the scene. Arata immediately shouts to Takuto that they'll hold the line on the perimeter. Those were Rei's direct orders. Before she bounced, she told Arata to step up, to stop talking and start moving like a real slayer. There's no telling when the main squad will return. Sticking to the mission, Arata and Toyoi engage the horde, slaughtering monsters while pulling terrified civilians out of the kill zone. A rescued mother clutches her sobbing son, stroking his hair to calm him down. See, she whispers, I told you the heroes would come. But suddenly winged nightmares burst from the rift. Arata freezes, totally blindsided. His brain scrambles. Why is the rift spewing out an army of these things? This is bad. Airborne hostiles are uncharted territory. Before he can even process the threat, one of the aerial freaks dive bombs straight for the mother and child Arata just rescued, mere inches from impact. Arata slices it in two with a blade of soot. He rushes to the civilians, panic in his voice. You guys good? The mom nods, trembling out a thank you, but Arata's gaze snaps skyward. The sky is crawling with them. He realizes if these things scatter, the entire containment zone is toast. He's racking his brain for a strategy. He screams at Toyoi, they aren't strong but we're sitting ducks down here. They can't hit what they can't reach. And before they can adjust their tactics, the flyers start swarming like locusts, pouring out of the void. Arata barks orders at Toyoi. We can't just stand here. If we don't act now, this whole sector gets leveled. He needs speed. Arata unleashes a rapid-fire volley of soot bullets trying to snipe the swarm out of the sky. He clips a few, but they're too agile. Trying to pick them off one by one is a losing game, barely enough to hold them back. Arata knows if these sky rats breach the perimeter, neighboring districts are next. He has to end this here and now. Suddenly, 3 other slayers burst onto the scene as backup. Even they pause, stunned by this new aerial threat. The squad leader takes charge, immediately ordering the tanks to shield the civilians, while the snipers provide covering fire for Arata. Arata feels the adrenaline surge. He is locked in, refusing to let his city fall to ruins today. But anxiety creeps in. His current attacks aren't cutting it. He needs crowd control. He needs to slow them down. The answer, his soot skill. He closes his eyes, digging deep into his muscle memory. He knows the theory. He just needs to execute. That's it. Arata explodes with power, pumping out a massive black cloud that blankets the entire sky, engulfing every single monster in the swarm. Got him. Arata clenches his fist, triggering the hardening process, turning the cloud into stone and freezing the beasts mid-air. It works, but the mana drain is insane. He's burning through energy like crazy. If he doesn't wipe them all out now, he's dead meat. Arata increases the density, dragging the solidified flock crashing down to earth. Gravity does the rest. Target acquired. With the monsters grounded, Toyoi dashes in, slicing through the statues. Arata shatters his share of the trap in a single blow. He's evolving. Controlling the soot feels effortless now. Riding the momentum, he turns his sights on the stragglers to finish the job. He flares his aura again, muscles screaming in protest as he bets it all on one final strike. Soot coalesces into a colossal greatsword. With the targets lined up, he cleaves the battlefield, obliterating the remaining threats instantly. The backup squad watches, jaws on the floor. Pure shock turns to awe. The civilians erupt into cheers. The nightmare is finally over. Arata's legs give out, and he hits the pavement totally spent. A slayer rushes over, hype levels maxed out. Dude, that was insane. We would have lost the sector without you. He scans the rift. Looks like the waves have stopped. No signs of reinforcements. The slayer hauls Arata to his feet. Deep down, Arata lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He held the line. The gold slayers can handle the rest. He finally understands the terror of a large-scale rift, but something feels off. Why was the pushback so weak? Suddenly, the Slayer's comms buzz. Headquarters. It's burning. Arata's blood runs cold. If this HQ turns to ash, we're talking total system collapse at the central complex home of the Earth Guild, aka the Sewa Guild. This place isn't just a building. It's the brain controlling every single Slayer operation. Inside sits the nationwide Slayer mainframe, tracking every magic rift that's ever ripped open. It's the nerve center for mission dispatch. We're talking the main armory, the ICU loot distribution training grounds, and the max security cells for rogue slayers. Hell, even media control operates from here. Its reach is literally nationwide. So if this fortress falls, Japan's entire defense grid against the beast scourge goes dark. Chaos reigns inside. But silver-ranked Kohaku, Dodojo's protege, steps up to take the wheel. He's barking orders, prioritizing the evac of all non-combatants. Civilians first, no exceptions. He screams for the grunts to pair up and stay tight. Bronze ranks, they're on core facility lockdown, ordered to radio in any movement. The silver elites, however, they've got a different job. They're on offense hunting the beasts, trying to overrun the HQ. Kohaku's voice doesn't shake, as he tells them to hold the line. The gold ranks are MIA, so it's all on them. Kohaku glances out the window and spots a swarm of aerial horrors circling the perimeter. Where did they even spawn from? They're miles from the nearest mega fissure. Then it hits him. These beasts were camping, waiting for Dojo and the heavy hitters to vacate the premises. He questions if the barrier around the rift was too weak. Scanning the battlefield, his heart sinks the front line. Slayers are getting absolutely wrecked. It's a nightmare scenario. The remaining troops are raiders built for assault, not holding down a fort. Suddenly, a report screams through the comms, the infirmary is ablaze. Kohaku freezes, stunned that the enemy breached that deep already. No time to think, he sprints toward the medical wing, shouting at his wingman to gather intel fast. They need situational awareness right now. Rushing down the hall, doubt creeps in. Is he strong enough to carry the torch Dojo passed to him? Dojo trusted him with the keys to the castle. Bursting into the infirmary, he finds a slaughterhouse. Monsters everywhere trashing the place. A beast hurls a fireball straight at his face, but he sidesteps just in time. Furious, Kohaku roars at the creature. Not in my house. You don't get to run wild here. He analyzes the battlefield fire and wind types, tag teaming using the smoke and flames as visual cover. Wind is his elemental weakness. He hesitates, wondering if rushing the fire type is suicide. Boom, Arata and Toyoi crash the party. Scanning the inferno, Arata confirms the HQ is literally roasting. He tried to avoid this mess, but looking at the carnage, he knows there's no turning back. Arata turns to the interim leader. I'll kill the fire. You handle the trash. Kohaku bristles. Who is this rando? Giving him orders. Then he clocks the face. That's Arata, the infamous irregular who went rogue. He also senses the beast aura radiating off Toyoi. Arata ignores the glare, activating his suit to smother the flames. Kohaku's jaw drops. Arata snuffs out the raging inferno with a single high-power blast. Irregular or not, Kohaku knows he needs that firepower. Suddenly, a monster blitzes Arata, but Kohaku intercepts. His power flares instantly, petrifying the beast into stone. Another statue for my collection, he sneers. He slams his hand on the floor, summoning a wicked spear, and launches himself at the frozen target. Impact. He drives the spear through the stone, shattering the monster into a million pebbles. Turning to Arata, Kohaku barks, consider yourself on probation until this building is secure. He makes it clear the mission is total extermination. Arata nods internally, relieved. He's actually hyped to fight beside a prodigy, the guy who snagged Seiwa Guild's #2 spot. While basically a kid, he's not sure about the cooldown on that petrification, but the power level is insane. Arata gets an idea. Using his suit, he mimics the hardening effect to seal a beast. Kohaku watches, eyes wide. The newbie copied his signature move after seeing it once. After they mop up the room, Arata gives props, telling Kohaku that first move was legendary. Kohaku quickly looks away, hiding a massive blush. That was nothing, he mutters, trying to keep his cool. Kohaku gets right in his face, demanding to know why he is spamming abilities like a total amateur. His control is an absolute train wreck. He warns Arata that fighting this sloppy is just speedrunning his mana bar to 0, while leaving his defenses wide open for a critical hit. That is exactly why Arata always gasses out instantly. He skipped the tutorial levels. Arata looks shook, realizing he actually has zero clue how his own powers work. He has just been brawling on pure instinct this whole time. Kohaku smirks, dropping a savage roast. Try not to be dead weight, rookie. But Arata's head is spinning with chaos everywhere. He has got no idea what the priority objective actually is. Cut to the headquarters Divine Armory. Takatora is creeping around, putting his hands on high-tier loot that definitely does not belong to him. He spots a legendary golden sword and decides to swipe it, figuring since the world is going to Hellfinder's Keepers. With the God Slayers MIA, he decides he is going to be the main character who saves the day. The second, his fingers wrap around the hilt. A surge of god-tier energy violently courses through his veins, convincing him he is instantly eclipsed. The 5 heavenly kings. He lets out an unhinged maniacal cackle, proclaiming himself the apex predator. Back in the fray, Arata, Kohaku, and Toyoi are tearing through the facility, clearing mobs left and right. Kohaku pauses, trying to calculate the optimal defense strategy. Should they prioritize the command center, or the storage vault? Surrounded by corpses, Arata asks the million-dollar question. Where are these things actually spawning from? The perimeter was clear when they pulled up, so this does not add up. Kohaku nods. Realizing they need intel and fast, he decides to scan the area for any dimensional anomalies nearby. He slams his palm against the floor, reading the seismic vibrations. The Earth's resonance is completely glitching out. Something catastrophic went down beneath them. Locking onto the disturbance's coordinates, Kohaku sprints off, barking at Arata to hustle unless he wants to get left in the dust. Seconds later, they crash into the underground record storage. And there it is, a massive, gaping crater in the center of the room, a literal backdoor for the invasion. While everyone was distracted by the main demonic rift event, the enemy utilized this tunnel to flank them from the inside. Suddenly, a fresh wave of horrors erupts from the darkness. Kohaku instantly deploys his spear to intercept. A blinding flash of energy explodes from his weapon, obliterating the nearest beast. Arata steps up to assist. But as he tries to brute force his aura, Kohaku yells at him to chill. He is a combat asset now, not a liability. Regulate your breathing, Kohaku commands. Create the void inside, and let the power flow up naturally from your core. Arata shuts his eyes, deciding to trust the vet's advice. He focuses, finding his rhythm. Suddenly, Snap Arata manifests a massive greatsword forged from pure soot and starts cleaving through the monsters like butter. Kohaku raises an eyebrow, impressed. The kid actually leveled up. Sure, Arata's technical control is still trash tier, but his combat instincts are sharpening. He also notes that Toyoi is acting strange, but hey, she is racking up kills, so he cannot complain. With the room cleared, Kohaku channels his earth magic to seal the tunnel shut. Breach closed, Kohaku declares. Now let's exterminate the stragglers. But Arata feels uneasy. The enemy density here is too low. What if they didn't plug every leak? Kohaku explains that the main swarm already pushed forward. Capping the spawn point was the critical move to stop reinforcements. Just in case, though, Arata reveals his backup plan. He scattered soot particles as detection markers. His sensory web expands rapidly and his eyes widen. I am picking up a massive hostility signal, directly above us. Arata urges them to head upstairs immediately. This is not just a few strays, the energy signature feels totally unnatural. The main concentration is clustering in the open zone overhead, he warns. Kohaku's face drops. That is the training facility. They sprint up the stairs and burst through the double doors. Pure shock hits them. A dimensional rift has torn open right inside the HQ. Kohaku is absolutely livid. Realizing the chaos outside was just a smokescreen to hide this infiltration. Monsters start pouring out, stunning Arata. Kohaku grits his teeth. It was a diversion. The fires, the underground tunnel, all distinct distractions to mask the real invasion. Furious Kohaku launches himself at the horde with Arata, right on his 6, slicing through the vanguard. Kohaku analyzes the battlefield. There is only one win condition here. Close that rift immediately. But he hesitates. If he abandons his post to focus on the portal, the association's defenses might crumble. Plus, this tear is huge, big enough to spawn high-level nightmares. Kohaku desperately racks his brain for a play that does not end in a game over. Wondering how Dojo would handle this mess, the vibe shifts. Suddenly, Arata steps up, telling Kohaku he's volunteering to dive in. Kohaku freezes, totally floored. Arata is already running on fumes, yet he's ready to throw himself into the fire without flinching. Kohaku stares, wondering what kind of fuel keeps this guy moving. Not one to be outdone, Kohaku declares he's rolling with him. If Arata, a rogue slayer, is putting his life on the line, there's no way Kohaku is sitting on the bench. He figures the other slayers can handle the mob control inside the building. The priority, decapitating the snake by taking out the nest first. Arata rallies the squad, hyping them up to breach the rift while dropping the ultimatum. Losing to beasts of this tier is absolutely not an option. Kohaku takes point-barking orders for the duo to lock in as they plunge into the rift. The moment they cross the threshold, they warp into what looks like a twisted throne room. Kohaku admits the atmosphere is straight-up haunted. Arata, however, freezes. He spots a magic beast, pulling the strings from the shadows. Kohaku snaps them back to focus, demanding they speedrun this mission, and bounce, citing his heavy responsibilities. But as they push deeper into the chamber, the air gets heavy. Something feels wrong. Meanwhile, the Gold Slayers are busy fighting for their lives against their own nightmares. A few beats later, Kohaku breaks the silence. It's suspicious that not a single monster has tried to jump them since they entered this zone. He turns to Arata, pressing him on what actually drives him to fight. Arata is caught off guard, and while he's stumbling over his words, Kohaku cuts him off. Me, he interrupts. I fight for Dojo's legacy. Kohaku claims that, as long as Dojo stands, the Slayers have a fighting chance in this war. However, he throws shade at Arata, claiming the guy lacks any trace of refinement. Toyoi smirks, twisting his words to imply Kohaku just said, Arata isn't his type. Kohaku panic clears the air, telling Toyoi she's way off base. He tells her to actually study Dojo in combat. He starts absolutely glazing the man, describing his power command as a flowing river, and his technique as pure efficiency, nothing wasted. Kohaku calls Dojo's form high art, rambling about how an ancient master painter would weep witnessing such a holy masterpiece. Toyoi looks bored, clearly unimpressed by the fanboy speech, but Kohaku dismisses her as just being a rude girl. Done with the lecture, he tells Arata to sense the current of power flowing inside him. They reach a massive gate, and as it creaks open, they're face to face with a nightmare, a colossus, fused with human heads and a grotesque body. Without warning, the beast charges a laser and blasts Kohaku. Instantly, Kohaku's reality shatters. He sees Dojo lying there, body completely mutilated. Kohaku screams in agony, watching his mentor's corpse broken on the floor. But he has no idea. He's trapped in a hallucination. On the outside, Arata watches in confusion as Kohaku just collapses, staring blankly at the monster. Arata realizes the laser wasn't physical, it's a mental attack. Simultaneously, Toyoi drops, clutching her head and screaming in terror. Arata tries to steal his mind, but the monster tags him with a beam too. Instantly, Arata's trauma floods in images of everyone he failed to save, manifest before him, screaming that their deaths are his fault. The visions brand him a failed slayer. whispering that he should be the one in the grave. Arata crashes to his knees, sobbing as the emotional weight crushes him. With every passing second, the monster looms over them, literally feeding on their suffering. Suddenly something clicks in Arata's psyche. He realizes he can't fold here despite his history of failure. Fueled by sheer willpower, Arata forces himself up. He has to bring Aoi back, refusing to let history repeat. The tragedy of his brother, he locks in. He tries to tap into that internal energy flow, exactly like Kohaku preached. Suddenly, he grabs hold of Aoi's magic signature, wondering if this connection is thanks to the visualization skill. Realizing it works, Arata dives deeper into the well to draw more power. The monster senses Arata breaking the spell and frantically unloads a desperate attack. The blast connects, triggering a massive explosion. But when the smoke clears, Arata stands untouched, safe behind a barrier constructed from Aoi's energy. Arata looks at his hands, stunned that he actually managed to harness Aoi's power, creating a shield that repelled the beast's assault. Now Arata has an opening to cook up a counterattack. Meanwhile, Kohaku is still stuck in the nightmare, convinced Dojo is dead. Suddenly, it dawns on him that Arata is facing the boss solo. Crushed by his own weakness, he slams his head into the ground in frustration. Snapping back to reality, clarity finally hits him. He glares at the boss monster with pure disgust, swearing on his life to clean this mess up for his mentor. The beast unleashes a laser barrage, but Arata's shield eats every single hit without a scratch. The monster is fuming that its attacks are bouncing off like nothing. Suddenly, a chill runs down Arata's spine. He whips around just in time to see a grotesque chunk of the creature sloughing off the main body. The slime morphs into a clone and dives for his throat, but right before it connects, Toyoi's voice booms across the chamber, mocking the monster for burning its mana on cheap copies and shattering its own illusion. Xing Toyoi skewers the clone, with her claws looking absolutely lethal and radiating pure queen energy. With Toyoi back in the game, Arata pivots to check on Kohaku's status. Surprise, Kohaku is already vertical and fueled by rage. He triggers his ultimate ability, Stone Gargantua. A colossal suit of armor manifests, towering over the boss and its army of minions like a kaiju. Boom. One haymaker obliterates 4 clones instantly, the shockwave nearly knocking Arata off his feet. Arata finally realizes Kohaku is built different. The guy looks terrifying, like he just flipped a switch to demon mode. The boss tries a dirty sneak attack on Arata's blind spot, but his instincts are screaming at him, and he dodges the sucker punch just as the monster pulverizes the floor. Arata sees an opening and strikes back. Clang, his blade bounces right off the monster's skull. Kohaku barks at him, "Stay focused, refine your mana flow." Arata is confused. Refine? In the middle of a deathmatch. Kohaku knows this is the turning point. If Arata doesn't break his limits right here and now, they are all dead. Arata shuts his eyes, tuning out the chaos. He channels Aoi's energy into his steel. Evolving it into the glittering mist sword weapon glowing, he launches himself at the beast. And faster than a heartbeat, he cleaves the monster cleanly in two. Game over. Gasping for air, he glances back. Toyoi is floored, but Kohaku, he's got that "that's my boy" smirk plastered on his face. He gives Arata the nod. He just passed the test. Running on fumes, Arata collapses to the floor. Toyoi rushes to help, but Kohaku stays back, deep in thought. That energy signature, it matches a golden orb awakening. Kohaku starts wondering, who is this kid really? Cut to later. They sweep the remaining trash mobs and secure the Association HQ. Mission accomplished. But with the base safe, Kohaku knows the real threat is next, that massive fissure. Meanwhile, inside the rift, Doju and Cheyenne are hunting the boss through a dense, murky forest. Cheyenne is already complaining. This place is gross. My outfit is getting ruined." Classic diva behavior. Doju rolls his eyes, roasting her for dressing like she's on a runway instead of a dungeon, but she ignores him. Instead, she vents her frustration by nuking the forest ahead with a blast. There. Now we have a path. Doju sighs. So dramatic. But his mind drifts back 17 years, to when the barrier between worlds dissolved. It was a total apocalypse scenario. Thousands died when the beasts flooded out. They were too slow back then. Doju swears never again. But something feels off. It's too quiet. The rift shouldn't be this silent. "It's an ambush," Xian says, looking bored. Doju nods in agreement, telling her to stay frosty. They reach a massive, twisted tree, leaking bad vibes. Bingo! Target acquired. Xian looks relieved, mostly because she doesn't have to walk anymore. They spot the monsters perched up high in the branches. Definitely A rank or higher. Xian is ready to speedrun this fight so she can go home. Meet the false twins. Arum of the White Wings and Varuna of the Black Wings. They look absolutely demonic. Certified A rank threats. The twins scoff, surprised the humans actually found them, warning the duo that they aren't leaving this forest alive. They start bragging about slaughtering silver slayers like flies, asking Doju and Xian, "How long do you think you'll last?" 10 seconds. They fire a massive energy beam, but Doju and Xion aren't sweating it. Big mistake, twins. Doju flares his golden aura. Listen close, kids. Gold isn't just shiny silver. It's a whole different league. It is time for a lesson in pain. Witness why they hold the title Golden Slayers. Radiant armor snaps into existence around Dojo's frame. Simultaneously, Xion charges a devastating energy sphere. The twins' assault slams into Dojo, but he tanks the hit like it is absolutely nothing. Panic sets in for the twins. Refusing to fold, they desperately unleash a second volley of laser fire at the duo. The barrage is thicker this time, yet Dojo effortlessly deflects every shot, while Xion finally drops the nuke she has been cooking up. Witnessing the sheer scale of the incoming energy, the false twins realize instantly it is game over. Dojo remains unfazed, fully aware that at their core, humans and beasts are cut from the exact same cloth. Blinded by their limited experience, they foolishly assumed the Golden Slayers were opponents they could actually comprehend. But the Golden Slayers' might defies logic, an overwhelming force that completely shatters their scale of reality. The twins can only watch in horror as Xion's blast incinerates them, obliterating everything within the strike zone, including the massive tree they were perched on. With their sector completely cleared out, Xion turns to Dojo, wondering aloud if the rest of the squad has wrapped up their battles. Meanwhile, Rio and Rei are absolutely dominating Ariel, the priest of vanity, and Balm the war idol, without breaking a sweat. They purge the monsters just as efficiently as Dojo and Xion. Simultaneously, Takuto makes quick work of Lil and Vaz, the twin phantoms of illusory sound. Yet Takuto looks disappointed the opponent he is actually itching to fight is not inside the fissure, meaning that showdown is postponed. Shortly after, Kohaku receives the comms that Dojo is heading back to HQ, and he receives the intel with pure hype. When the other Slayers catch wind of this, they erupt in celebration. Just like that, the large-scale rift invasion concludes. The association later reports that collateral damage was minimal. However, the true endgame of the magic beasts remains a total mystery. Vibes are high, until a new threat suddenly emerges from the shadows behind the association headquarters, revealing Takatora gripping a divine weapon. The artifact's corruption has already taken hold, one eye glowing a menacing red, his right arm mutated into a beastly limb. Yet he grins like a maniac, completely drunk on the surging power. Descending from the sky like a fallen angel, he rains hellfire onto the surrounding architecture. Emergency klaxons blare, signaling catastrophic danger to the city. Rei arrives back at the guild just in time to catch the briefing from her attendant. Rei is stunned by the footage. Takatora is absolutely wrecking the association headquarters. The attendant drops the bombshell. They have lost contact with the Seiwa Guild at HQ. Hearing this, Rei's stomach drops, fearing for Arata and Aoi. Zero hesitation, she sprints toward headquarters, praying they can hold on until she arrives. Back at HQ, Takatora is fully embracing his villain arc, launching volley after volley of fireballs, inflicting heavy casualties on the populace. Seeing the situation spiral, Arata orders Toyoi to prioritize civilian safety. Kohaku zooms in on Takatora's hand, his eyes widening in shock when he recognizes the divine weapon. Kohaku calls him out, screaming that you do not pick a divine weapon, the weapon picks its master. These artifacts have a will of their own. Kohaku is baffled, wondering how Takatora bypassed security. The armory barrier should not have been breachable by someone of his level. Takatora just throws his head back, laughing and proclaiming himself the strongest alive. Suddenly that laugh turns into a blood-curdling scream as a dark shadow erupts from his very being. The entity lunges at Arata, but he manages to catch the strike with his shield. Arata forces his mind to clear, locking in on the mission. He is the only wall standing between these monsters and the civilians. With surgical precision, he slices the shadow in two, proving he is ready to push far past his limits as a slayer. Simultaneously, Kohaku and Toyoi engage Takatora, fighting desperately to defend the guild and the innocent bystanders. But moments later, reality hits. Arata is running on fumes, having burned through too much energy. Sensing blood in the water, Takatora launches a devastating blow aimed right at Arata's opening. Realizing his shield cannot tank this hit, Arata spins around, using his own body as the final barrier to protect the kids and civilians. He reinforces his skin with the shield's energy, but the impact is catastrophic, forcing him to grit his teeth against the agony, as severe burns scorch his flesh. To make matters worse, his magic reserves hit zero, leaving him helpless as waves of excruciating pain crash over him. Toyoi is burning her own life force to keep the civilians alive, while Kohaku is barely holding the line against the monsters fighting tooth and nail to uphold his rep as Seiwa Guild's number 2. Just when all seems lost, Rei bursts onto the scene, a confident smile flashing across her face. Seeing the trio still on their feet, she sprints over to verify their status, but the relief is short-lived. They're completely tapped out. After confirming the civilians are clear, she snaps. Pure rage takes over as she orders them to fall back. She'll handle the rest. Takatora is busy tearing up the battlefield when bam, a blindside impact launches him across the map like a rag doll. Rei steps out of the dust, eyes burning. She makes it crystal clear, mercy is officially off the table. Not after what he pulled. Stealing a divine weapon and throwing away his humanity. Unforgivable. Desperate, Takatora fires off a frantic magic blast. Rei doesn't even flinch. She tanks the hit head-on while trash-talking him. She promises to beat the living daylights out of him. Suddenly, her aura explodes, transforming her silhouette into something terrifyingly recognizable. Meanwhile, retreating to base dojo drops a bombshell on Xian Rei, is actually the Golden Slayer with the highest raw firepower. Xian's jaw drops. She bet on dojo holding that title. Dojo corrects the record. Sure, on paper, his stats might be higher. But the second Rei fights solo, it's a whole new ballgame. Xian tilts her head confused. Solo. Dojo breaks it down as long as Rei doesn't have to babysit teammates or worry about friendly fire. She outclasses every other Golden Slayer. He reveals her secret. She wields a volatile dual affinity of water and lightning. That combo is lethal to anyone standing too close, so she nerfs herself when allies are around. That dangerous power got her branded a heretic, forcing her down a brutal, lonely path. Turns out she's the OG, the first irregular. Back in the war zone, Kohaku snaps awake. He scans the horizon and spots the clash of titans Takatora versus Rei. Rei catches his movement and exhales. Thank God, she's actually impressed. He adapted to her mana surge perfectly. Yeah, she'd been funneling her own power into the trio the whole time. Kohaku gears up to jump into the fray, but Rei shuts him down instantly. He opens his mouth to protest, but she cuts him off. This isn't a request, it's a direct order. Reluctantly, Kohaku yields. Her command: evac the squad while she leashes this rogue monster. Kohaku grabs his unconscious teammates, sprinting away from ground zero. Once clear, he conjures a recovery pool to stabilize the pair, so they can recharge their magical batteries. Meanwhile, Rei is drowning in self-loathing. She was entrusted with the guild, but she failed to keep Takatora in check, and this disaster is the result. She is absolutely furious at how this played out, concluding she should have just run solo from day one. Takatora, getting absolutely ragdolled by her attacks, screams in pure frustration and unloads a massive barrage of ice swords straight at her. Rei snaps her energy barrier into existence, deflecting the barrage, while the rest of the onslaught whizzes harmlessly past her. Dozens of blades embed themselves in the glowing shield, vibrating inches from her face. Rei freezes, realizing just how close she came to a game-over screen. That fear instantly curdles into rage. Gripping the cracking force field, a memory flashes her parents and their promise to defend the city, echoing in her mind. She snaps. Tapping into pure fury, Rei explodes with high-voltage energy, instantly obliterating every single blade in her orbit. No mercy time. She locks in, blasting Takatora with a vortex of electricity that swallows him whole in a thundering tornado. Takatora howls as raw voltage fries his nerves. Watching from the sidelines, Kohaku is completely shook to see Rei like this, dual-wielding the god's most broken abilities. But absolute power like that, it comes with a receipt, and the price is steep. Flashback to the lonely days, kids treating her like a ticking time bomb, terrified to get within 10 feet of her, convinced the irregular would snap and go psycho any second. Just one look at her now, and Kohaku can see the hell she's walked through. Rei flicks her wrist, priming another bolt of plasma, and firing it point blank. Takatora shrieks in pure terror as the beam drills straight through him. She's not done. Rei ragdolls him inside the electric vortex like a toy. Kohaku watches terrified, realizing Rei's power level is off the charts. Fed up with being the punching bag, Takatora lunges, closing the distance instantly, trying to force a brawl. Rei weaves past the strike effortlessly, snatching his deformed claw mid-air, her eyes saying it all. You really think you can throw hands with me? She loads a gigawatt into her right hook. Takatora freezes, realizing he's screwed just before her fist connects like a freight train. Boom. A massive shockwave ripples out, launching Takatora across the battlefield until he faceplants into the dirt. Unbelievably, he tries to stand. Rei flinches that divine weapon durability is no joke. Danger or not, she steels herself. This is her burden, and she's got to carry it solo. A dark memory surfaces, cradling her mother's lifeless body, the crushing guilt of every hurt she's ever caused weighing on her soul. Since Takatora won't stay down, Rei decides to put him down permanently. But suddenly, Kohaku spots the groundwater trembling and vibrating. He's confused, watching Rei charge up the finisher. It's a gamble. She'll be a sitting duck after this. She has to take the shot, praying it knocks him out without actually deleting him from existence. Trigger pulled. Rei unleashes a blinding beam of destruction, literally a tactical nuke with zero exit strategy. It impacts dead center, engulfing Takatora in a catastrophic explosion. Kohaku's jaw hits the floor, his brain refusing to process that Rei just sniper-shotted a literal hydrogen bomb. Dust settles, and Rei drifts back down to Earth. Predicting the crash, she collapses totally spent. Kohaku sprints over to check her vitals. She forces herself up, waving him off. I'm good, she lies, looking like she hasn't slept in a decade. Gazing out, she sees the survivors cheering. They think the nightmare is over. A faint smile breaks through. She starts daydreaming about going home and crushing some barbecue she's earned a cheat meal when shunk. Cold steel drives through her back. She gasps, spinning around in pure shock to face the assassin. It's Takatora. The guy just won't stay dead. Rei crumples to the dirt, coughing up crimson, a gaping hole in her chest. Kohaku scrambles toward her, panic taking over. Rei isn't scared, she's furious at herself. One slip up, one moment of weakness. She underestimated the tankiness of that monster, and now she's paying the ultimate price. This is it. Game over. Tears mix with the dirt on her face, but she has no regrets, she gave it everything. Takatora starts cackling like a total lunatic, hissing that she belongs to him. He raises his blade for the execution, but Aoi materializes and catches his wrist. Rei hacks up more blood, screaming at Aoi to run. Aoi stands firm, she's not letting Rei fight this battle solo. Takatora backhands Aoi like a fly. Witnessing this, every slayer in the vicinity locks in, swarming the field to form a human wall around Rei. She watches in awe as they throw their lives on the line for her, because to them, she's the last hope. Rei mentally begs them to flee, terrified of having more blood on her hands. Beside her, Kohaku desperately channels his healing aura, vision blurring. Rei prays for a miracle. Meanwhile, Takatora is having the time of his life slaughtering the defenders, until Arata spawns in from the shadows, gripping Takatora's skull with one hand. Before anyone can blink, Takatora is yeeted across the map. He crashes hard and instantly a forest of soot swords erupts from the ground, skewering him like a pincushion. But Takatora's ego is writing checks his body can't cash. He still thinks Arata is beneath him. Big mistake. Arata claps back, unleashing a devastating wave of energy. Boom! The explosion flattens Takatora, planting him face first in the dirt, while Arata coldly tells him to zip it. And the visual transformation is terrifying. Arata's gone full demon mode with a jagged horn tearing through his skull. Rei is absolutely shook. Takatora stares in paralyzed horror, his brain unable to process this glitch in reality. But let's rewind a few minutes to when that voice echoed in Arata's mind. He had woken up in a pitch-black void, kicking himself for blacking out mid-fight like an amateur. That's when he spots a figure shackled in heavy chains. The prisoner locks eyes with him, realizing the connection is finally live. The stranger busts out a maniacal laugh. Spooked Arata draws his blade on instinct, demanding an identity check. Chill out, kid, the stranger grins, introducing himself as Regnus. He promises to spill the tea on where Arata's insane power comes from, but Arata isn't exactly in a listening mood. Instead of hearing the guy out, slash. He cuts Regnus right down the middle. Regnus is stunned by the audacity, but Arata is just screaming to escape this headspace. Get me out of here, he roars. Regnus just smirks, claiming that both the sword and the power Arata wields are gifts from him. That stops Arata cold. Regnus drops the bomb. You need to understand your role. You are the heretic we've been waiting for. Arata looks at him like he's speaking alien. He has zero clue what heretic is supposed to mean. It sounds like gibberish to him. He's confused, frustrated, and running out of patience. Regnus breaks it down. The power he holds is forbidden, a taboo force that marks him as an enemy of the natural order. It's the power of absolute theft, Regnus explains. Steal without reason. Take whatever you crave. Arata is over the lecture. He lops off Regnus's head this time. Look, I got a million questions, he snaps. But I'm on a tight schedule. Since you own this power, give me more juice. Now. He yanks Regnus by the collar chain, asserting dominance. Regnus grins impressed. You got guts, kid. You're definitely not that weeping wimp anymore. Regnus teases a refusal, but Arata calls his bluff immediately. Refuse and you stay locked in this void for eternity. Regnus has to respect the hustle. The kid is smarter than he looks. Fine, Regnus concedes. I'll give you 1 minute to master the core of my power. Snap. Back to reality. Arata finally gets it. His demonic form is a side effect of Regnus overcharging him. But Takatora, he's still delusional, thinking he has a shot. Takatora charges in blindly. Arata barely breaks a sweat, manifesting a wall of energy shields to tank the hit. Then he returns the favor. Wham! Arata lands a sledgehammer blow to Takatora's chest. The impact launches Takatora across the battlefield. Before he can recover, he's stapled to the ground by a rain of conjured swords. Even while pinned like a butterfly, Takatora's brain refuses to accept the L. Losing to someone like Arata isn't in his script. Desperate, he switches targets, diving for Toyoi. Bad move. She unleashes her blackmail beast skill instantly. The blast knocks him back effortlessly. Takatora's jaw drops. He didn't think she had hands like that. Now he's full-on raging, screaming about his status in the Goto conglomerate and flexing the divine sword in his grip. He starts ranting about how he dethroned the 5 kings because he's the strongest. Pure narcissism. Arata cuts through the noise with facts. You stole that orb. You turned your own brother into a monster. You're worse than a magic beast, Arata spits. You're just a thief with a stolen sword. So Arata asks, his voice dripping with killing intent, "How do you want to die?" The pressure is so heavy, even Rei feels suffocated. Blinded by pride, Takatora snaps, "I am not dying to trash like you." He proclaims himself the Golden Slayer, trying to force his body to go supernova and unleash a massive blast. But instead of power blood geysers from his skin, Arata realizes the truth: Takatora's body is rejecting the stolen orb. It never belonged to him. He's a fake. Realizing he's completely cooked, Takatora panics. He turns tail and runs. Arata casually rips open space itself, leaving Kohaku stunned. Takatora slams on the brakes. As a portal snaps open right in front of him, Arata's hand shoots out of the rift, gripping Takatora's skull like a vice. Dragging him toward the void, Arata looks absolutely nightmarish. "Where do you think you're going? What happens if I close this portal on your neck right now?" Arata taunts. Takatora breaks down, sobbing in terror. He knows it's guillotine time. Just as Arata tightens his grip to end it, Toyoi wraps her arms around him from behind. "Don't do it, don't lose yourself to the rage. You'll never forgive yourself if you cross that line." Her words pierce through. Arata freezes. Toyo's voice screams through Arata's mind, like a siren triggering pure instinct. Snap. He forces the rift, shut right on Takatora's limb, slicing that right arm clean off. An agonized howl rips through the air. With the threat finally neutralized, Arata's adrenaline crashes. Lights out. He hits the deck, totally spent. Just like that, the nightmare ends. The chaos sparked by that massive rift, officially over. As for Takatora, he gets a one-way ticket to the underground dungeon. They stripped his Slayer title, condemning him to a dark, lonely existence, far away from the spotlight. Meanwhile, Arata hits a wall. Regnus, the entity behind his power, goes radio silent. Worse, he can't replicate that insane burst of energy. Nothing works like before, leaving him with a mountain of unanswered questions. But the mystery needs to wait. He's got a massive headache looming on the horizon: his trial. The scene shifts to the Irregular Treatment Council. The spotlight hits Arata as he steps up to face the music. Dojo doesn't sugarcoat it. Breaking the commandments, escaping the underground cell, the council can't just sweep that under the rug. It's Judgment Day. Standing right next to him is Toyo, silenced by a gag, awaiting the verdict. The room is stacked with heavy hitters, gold slayers, and high-ranking council members. Dojo points out the elephant in the room: Arata's volatile ability. The guy literally tore open a small-scale magic rift. Dojo argues that that kind of unhinged power is a ticking time bomb. One wrong move, and it could wipe out the entire Slayer organization. Dojo opens the floor, asking for the room's take. Rei doesn't hesitate. She's the first one on her feet. She takes the heat, claiming full responsibility since Arata was under her watch. Then, she drops a truth bomb. Without Arata, Takatora would have been unstoppable. Ryo backs her up immediately. Sure, the kid might be a total anomaly, but he mowed down hordes of monsters when it mattered. Ryo's fought side by side with him before, so he's got receipts. He vouches for Arata's character. Then Takuto slides into the debate, pointing out they can't just ignore the context here. Yeah, his power source is a mystery, but the situation is complex. His fix: put a leash on him, close surveillance. Dojo turns to Shion for her 2 cents. Shion finally breaks her silence. She's honestly baffled. The guy fought like a demon, for free. 0 paycheck. It makes her question why he even bothered becoming a Slayer in the first place. Dojo looks like he's done with life. That's her contribution. He lets out a heavy sigh and moves on. Then Arata speaks up. He admits he's clueless about his power, and yeah, he definitely went berserk mode. But here's the kicker: he'd do it all again in a heartbeat. That triggers one of the old guard conservatives, who jumps up screaming, "Don't mess with us." The guy loses it, calling Arata's entire existence a sick joke. And let's not forget, he's controlling a magic beast now. The guy starts listing off history lessons, ranting about how irregular Slayers always bring disaster. Ryo isn't shocked. These guys are the orb fundamentalists, hardliners. But Dojo's hands are tied. These guys have major pull, so he has to let them vent. The rest of the conservative bloc joins the chorus, demanding Arata's execution. To them, he's a demon, plain and simple. Accusations start flying like shrapnel. Ryo blinks. They're way louder and more aggressive than usual. Rei whispers the reason these guys didn't see the fight. They only see a walking, talking threat to society. Suddenly, a booming voice cuts through the noise. It's Kamigari speaking from the conservative benches. "Shut it." He orders his own crew to zip it. The room freezes. This is the head of the conservatives, shutting down his own people. Kamigari lays it out straight. Yeah, Arata conspired with the Navy Guildmaster, broke out of jail, and wields some freaky unknown power. But then he drops the hammer. He saw Arata use his own body as a shield. The kid was running on fumes, 0 mana left, and he still stood his ground. Kamigari glares at his peers. If someone who protects others over themselves isn't a Slayer, then who is? He tears into his comrades. When Takatora went rogue, they were useless. They froze. Then comes the shocker. Kamigari looks at Dojo and says, "If you want a head to roll, take mine." He admits he and the guards abandoned their posts. Suddenly, the citizens at the hearing start shouting. They're vouching for Arata. They saw him risk everything. They saw him fighting desperately, bleeding out battered but still defending the association during the assault. They beg Dojo to recognize him. That is a true Slayer, someone who fights for the people. Dojo takes it all in, looking at the crowd, the Slayers, and Arata. He nods. The verdict is clear. He accepts their judgment. With 0 objections left in the room, Dojo makes it official. Arata is now a full-fledged Slayer. Dojo drops the final verdict. Arata is officially under the protection of the Navy Guild. Rei can finally breathe easy. It actually worked out. Kamigari breezes past Rei, throwing a cold glance over his shoulder. I only stepped in because Arata saved my sister. I don't do debts. Dojo turns to Arata with an ultimatum. Keep fighting as a Slayer. Show the people your resolve. Prove you're worth it. But there's a catch. Slip up once, forget your duty, and the association will crush you. The deal is struck. Now, for the troublemakers. Dojo grills Ryo and Rei for the prison break and unauthorized deployment to the front lines. Arata walks out of that, hearing a free man, finally clutching his official Slayer badge. Toyo is crashing at Rei's place while Arata stares at the badge. He never wanted this life, but he's got 0 options. He gets home and reality hits hard. His locker is stuffed with a mountain of overdue utility bills. Suddenly, that dangerous Slayer paycheck looks like a blessing. There is no way he could survive this economy otherwise. He's sorting through the debt when Bam A Girl tackle hugs him from nowhere. This silver-haired stranger is beaming looking at Arata like he's the best thing she's ever seen. Arata is completely lost, but she grabs him tight. Hey, can I dissect you, please? She's acting like a total creep, begging to see his insides. Arata panics, blasting her back with a burst of suit power. Big mistake, that violence just turns her on. She whips out a scalpel, literal drool coming from her mouth. I can't wait to see what makes you tick. She lunges for round 2. But Rei intercepts. She knocks the crazy girl down with her ability. Rei knew this was coming. She was ready for this exact chaos. She hangs the girl upside down. Did you seriously miss the memo from Dojo? Rei sighs. She knows. We're all heading to the Research Institute tomorrow. Chill out. Mentioning the institute makes it click for Arata. He realizes exactly who this maniac is. She's Akiko, the director of the Slayer Research Institute. Cut to the next day, Arata is in Aki's lab, in the hot seat. Aki loses her mind when she hears about the Fisher and how he channeled Regnus's power. She is obsessed with whatever biology is happening under Arata's skin. Arata tries to stall, saying it's complicated, and he's still figuring things out himself. Aki isn't having it. I can't hold back anymore. She straps him down for undiluted access. Arata is horrified, realizing he definitely should have kept his mouth shut about his powers. Aki activates her ultimate skill, the virtual autopsy. It utilizes a water mirror scalpel for a non-invasive dissection. She can cut him open without actually cutting him. Arata is freaking out when Rei walks in. Look, she's a handful, Rei admits, but her tech is legit. Rei promises Arata he can trust Aki. On this one, she admits she was terrified of the director the first time she got scanned, too. Arata demands answers. He's never seen a Slayer use a skill this advanced before. Meanwhile, Aki is staring at the data from Arata's body, completely floored. Your structure, she whispers. It's nothing like a normal Slayer. She drops the bomb. Arata shares an origin with the Magai. His traits are nearly identical. Arata admits he's clueless, but notes that the power feels like it's settling into his bones. Aki looks him dead in the eye. Your body is the key. You are the door to the demon realm. Arata freezes. He has no idea what that implies. Do you know what a magic rift is? Aki asks. Arata nods. Yeah, a crack where dark souls spawn. Like a temporary dungeon kill the boss, it vanishes. Aki shakes her head. It's not just a dungeon. We found structures inside. Evidence of altered history. Some Magai speak our language. They form parties. They have goals. This proves they aren't just monsters. They have a civilization. Aki explains the magic rift is just a hallway for dark souls traveling from the demon realm. She admits they are still in the dark, operating on pure hypothesis. But she tells Arata there is a way to cross from the rift, directly into the demon realm. He needs to find that route. The answer to the origin of the rifts is hiding in the demon realm itself. Arata realizes his mission. He has to hunt down the truth. Shifting the topic to the demon realm, Aki hits Arata with a serious reality check regarding his physical state that's been living rent-free in her mind. She points out a glitch in his astral projection and chi flow, spotting a foreign aura signature that definitely isn't him. It's completely separate from Regnus, leaving Arata shook. However, Aki admits she's flying blind here, considering Arata is literally patient zero for this kind of supernatural anomaly. Rei jumps in to drop a warning, reminding Arata that even if they crack the code, no Slayer in history has ever stepped foot in the demon realm and lived to tell the tale. It's uncharted territory. They have zero intel on the monsters lurking there, or if the dimension will even tolerate a human presence. Arata claps back, assuring them he knows the stakes are high, but insists that sitting around is not an option. If he doesn't invade their turf soon, nothing changes. Aki vibes with his motivation, but warns him that going in without a strategy is a straight-up suicide mission. Arata cuts the conversation short, declaring he has no time for games, and honestly, there's only one shortcut: to unlock the path to the demon realm. Aki snaps back, demanding to know what crazy scheme he's cooking up, and Arata reveals he's going to strong-arm the answer out of Regnus. He's crunched the numbers. Regnus needs a host, which creates a major conflict of interest if Arata actually kicks the bucket. Arata asks Aki to confirm her surgical skills, and once she confirms she was the MVP who stitched up, Arata knows he's good to go. He decides to test his theory instantly. Without flinching, he plunges his blade straight into his own neck, blacking out on impact. In the blink of an eye, he respawns inside Regnus's mental void. Regnus looks down, unable to process the sheer stupidity of Arata's move, while Arata just smirks, teasing the demon for popping up like a worried parent. Regnus roasts Arata, claiming this isn't his choice, but since they're face-to-face, he admits Arata's high-risk gamble wasn't entirely trash. Regnus is actually stunned that Arata is trying to speedrun his way to the demon realm, but Arata demands the intel, framing it as a win-win scenario. Regnus pumps the brakes, hinting that he has his own agenda to handle, and frankly, Arata's power level is still way too low. Arata gets confused by this side quest talk, but Regnus claims he's gagged by a mystical restriction. Still, he makes it clear there is zero chance he's letting a rookie scrub enter the demon realm. Arata snaps, drawing his weapon in a rage, sick of Regnus gatekeeping everything. Arata shouts that he's stopping the rifts no matter what, and he doesn't care how dirty he has to play to get there. Regnus bursts out laughing, giving Arata props for talking a big game. Still, he decides to humble the kid. He lifts a single finger, unleashing a tsunami of dark energy that instantly has Arata trembling. Regnus reveals he's barely using one hand's worth of power, yet Arata is already glitching out, even though it would be a total waste if his host died here. Regnus sighs, realizing he has to do this, since Arata is dead serious about throwing his life away. He challenges Arata to dump his entire kit right now. Arata is triggered, but locks in for the boss fight. Regnus is hyped, demanding Arata show him some actual receipts of his strength. Arata blitzes forward, telling the demon to shut his trap and drop the lore he needs. Regnus mocks him, sensing the desperation to reach the demon realm. Suddenly the chains binding the demon glow crimson, and Regnus explains that if Arata wants the tutorial on entering the demon realm, he needs to shatter these restrictions first. Arata fires off a massive ultimate attack, but Regnus tanks it with zero effort. The demon taunts him, asking if that weak display is all he's got, warning him that it's game over if he doesn't level up immediately. Regnus clarifies he's not trying to PK his own host, but the restriction forces him to fight back without holding back. Arata is done hearing about restrictions, calling Regnus pathetic, and the demon surprisingly agrees he's got no shame. Regnus demands Arata prove his worth or die trying. Before Arata can even process the frame data, he gets absolutely steamrolled by Regnus's pressure, slammed into the floor with blood spraying everywhere. The reality check hits hard. Arata realizes the skill gap is massive. Even one-armed Regnus is in a different league. A single strike leaves Arata in critical condition, feeling like his entire skeletal system is about to fragment. Regnus looks disappointed, seeing his host struggle this much, urging him to get good. Arata grits his teeth, swearing he won't fold, claiming this pain is nothing compared to the hell his brother endured. Regnus is impressed by the tenacity, dropping a metaphor about soot being the indestructible residue left after the fires of hell burn everything else. Regnus reveals he gifted Arata that same resilient energy, screaming at him to fight harder and prove he's worthy. Regnus tries to flex his aura, looking to crush Arata instantly with raw pressure. But Arata, he casually slices through that energy blast like it's butter. Arata drops a bombshell. He realized they're vibing on the same frequency, so he just hacked Regnus's power flow. Then boom, he launches a massive volley of soot-forged weapons. Regnus actually gives him props for the high IQ play. But then the smirk returns. He basically tells him, "Cute trick, kid, but I'm the OG master of this art." The guy effortlessly parries everything, treating a life or death battle like a light warm-up. He's taunting Arata, asking if that's the whole bag of tricks. Regnus decides to escalate, spamming lethal blades at high velocity. Arata throws up a desperate water shield, barely holding the line against the onslaught. It's not enough. One jagged blade tears right through the defense, slicing Arata's shoulder. Pain flares, but in that split second, Arata spots a glitch in the matrix. Regnus doesn't notice the realization. He's too busy roasting him. Is that it? Disappointing, he mocks. He demands a real show. Arata draws his blade again, locking in. Regnus rolls his eyes. He's expecting another basic brute force attack. To him, Arata is just a rookie flailing around with stolen power. But Arata is done listening to this villain monologue. He bursts forward, kicking up a massive cloud of soot to blind the enemy. Regnus sighs, totally unimpressed by the smokescreen. He thinks Arata is banking on a cheap sneak attack. He stands perfectly still, Zen mode even as 1,000 projectiles scream toward him. Spamming decoys won't save you, he scoffs. But that confidence cracks the second he realizes something is very, very wrong. Arata materializes right in his face. Regnus still thinks he's untouchable, convinced no physical blow can hurt him. But Arata isn't aiming for the body. He slashes his water-infused blade straight into the binding chains. Snap. The links shatter instantly. Regnus freezes, totally shook. Arata grins. The gamble paid off big time. Just as he theorized, Regnus's absolute control over soot means 0 against the fluidity of water. Elemental advantage, Arata. He realized those chains were the limiter. Regnus bursts into laughter, finally getting it. Arata used the soot attacks as a massive distraction to sneak in the hydro hit. The whole fight was a feint. But suddenly, recoil hits. Arata's arm starts turning pitch black, consumed by the soot's backlash. Regnus doesn't attack. Instead, he drops some wisdom. Absorb it. Take this energy and evolve. He leaves it to Arata to unlock the soot's true potential. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Aki finishes knitting the flesh back together on Arata's neck. Now it's just a waiting game. Rei is pacing stressed out because he's been out cold for hours. Suddenly, Arata jolts awake, screaming like he just saw a demon. Rei rushes to his side, panicked. Arata immediately switches to tough guy mode, claiming I'm good, barely stings. He's mid-sentence bragging about his pain tolerance when Smack Rei silences him with a vicious slap to the mouth. The room goes silent. Aki's jaw drops. Rei is trembling with rage, yelling at him to quit the reckless hero act. She reminds him that his life isn't just his own. If he kicks the bucket, Aoi might go down with him. It's not a solo game anymore. Arata sees the tears in her eyes and realizes he messed up. He drops the ego and genuinely apologizes for scaring them. Rei lays down the law. You're part of my guild now. Don't you dare pull a stunt like that again. Arata nods like an obedient puppy. Then the adrenaline wears off and his cheek starts throbbing like crazy. He howls in pain. Rei flips her hair coolly, noting, yeah, my slaps come with a buff. Don't underestimate them. Despite the stinging face, Arata grins. He got the intel. Cut to the debriefing room. Arata and Rei gather the elite gold slayers to drop the knowledge bomb he extracted from Regnus. Rio isn't buying it. He crosses his arms asking if they're seriously going to trust the word of a cryptic dream ghost. Why would he hand over the keys to the kingdom, Rio argues. Arata stands firm. He knows Regnus was shooting straight. Rei steps up to defend her teammate. She admits she doesn't know how Arata did it, but she saw the risks he took to get that data. Takuto interrupts the drama. Cut the chase, he says. What's the secret method? Arata drops the mic. The gateway to the demon realm is hidden inside the boss of an S-rank rift. You have to slay the boss, then use its essence to tear open a dimensional rift and step through to the other side. Takuto's eyes light up. This is the kind of high-level chaos he lives for, and his interest in Arata just skyrocketed. But Dojo kills the vibe. He reminds everyone that an S-rank rift isn't a dungeon run. It's a suicide mission. An A rank equals a national army, he explains grimly. An S rank. That's a walking apocalypse. History barely records them because usually there are no survivors to write it down. Rio shakes his head. So it's a pipe dream. We don't even know where or when one of these nightmares will spawn. Arata looks ready to hunt, but Rio shuts him down. Finding the rift isn't the problem, kid. He looks Arata dead in the eye. The problem is you. Right now, an S-rank boss would eat you for breakfast. It turns out that whenever an S-rank rift rips open, it demands a blood sacrifice, specifically at least 2 golden slayers on the front lines, to shut it down. Send in bronze or silver ranks. That's a straight-up death sentence. Survival rate 0. But hearing those odds, Arata doesn't blink. He's dead set on breaching the demon realm whatever the cost. He declares. He's done living in fear. Doju vibes with that energy, realizing this could be the turning point where slayers finally go on the attack, instead of sitting around waiting for the rifts to ambush them. But there's one massive hurdle blocking the way. Arata needs a serious power-up fast. Shion drops a bomb, throw him into the death minute trial, and she volunteers to be the one trying to kill him. Rei is totally shook. Nobody's ever been crazy enough to attempt this. Against a gold rank slayer. Rio, though, he's completely unbothered, figuring if Arata can handle this, the S-rank rift won't chew him up instantly. While the squad debates his fate, Arata is just standing there like, what's a death minute trial? Doju breaks it down. It's the ultimate survival gauntlet, specifically designed for slayers trying to tackle rifts way above their pay grade. Since Arata is aiming for S-rank glory, Doju thinks he's ready to face the music. The rules are brutal but simple. Survive a 3-on-1 beatdown against higher-ranking slayers for 60 seconds. All he has to do is not die. S-rank rifts are unpredictable, so Doju insists they need to be locked and loaded now, ready to strike the second it opens. Despite the insanity of the challenge, Arata doesn't hesitate. He's in. They launch the trial and wham! Arata gets folded in just 10 seconds, knocked out cold, by a ruthless combo from Doju, Takuto, and Shion. Later, over at the Navy Guild, Rei gears up in her training fit and drops some truth on Arata. He's been brawling on instinct, but that won't cut it anymore. She promises to drill the absolute fundamentals into his skull until it's second nature. Instead of trembling, Arata looks absolutely hyped. Rei breaks it down. A skill isn't just power, it's visualization. The mental image needs to be crystal clear, distinct, and razor sharp. She tries to dumb it down, so Arata can grasp the concept, but the guy looks completely blank. Enough theory. She points to a towering wall of water and orders 10,000 basic skill reps. She hints that the payoff will be huge if he nails it. Arata and Takuto line up against the wall, unleashing a barrage of attacks. Hours grind by, and they finally hit the target number, gasping for air like fish out of water. They think they're done, but Rei strolls back in and drops a bombshell. Do 20,000 more. She smirks, telling them the real training only starts when they think they can't move another inch. Hours later, they're wrecked, crashing onto the floor, muscles too dead to even lift a finger. Suddenly, the water wall collapses. Arata has to react instantly to neutralize the flood. Flash, he fires a skill purely on reflex, shocking himself that he had anything left in the tank. Rei looks impressed, explaining that that specific move, acting beyond exhaustion, is the difference between life and death. Next stop, Lion Flame Guild. Ryo warns him he's about to get cooked, admitting he went easy on him before. With a manic grin, Ryo unveils the special regimen. Scorching Endurance, the Inferno, Hell. Arata stares blankly, wondering what that even means. Until whoosh, the walls ignite into a blazing furnace. Ryo barks that Arata will learn the Slayer basics, right here in the flames. He points to a desk piled high with books. Arata realizes with horror that he's stuck in a literal lecture room from hell. Ryo explains the endgame: to master icy composure and razor-sharp analysis, even when the world is burning down around him. Burn with a cool heart, Ryo shouts, while Arata is sweating buckets trying to read in the sweltering heat. Every time Arata opens his mouth to complain, Ryo screams at him to zip it and lock back in. Ryo keeps pushing him, boil the blood, freeze the mind. Hours of this torture pass, until Arata finally blacks out. Ryo nods in approval, class dismissed. He knows Arata has finally unlocked that fiery calmness required for extreme survival. Arata, drenched in sweat, can't believe that was the whole lesson. Fast forward to 24 hours before the Death Minute trial retest. Arata is alone in the woods grinding. Meanwhile, a mysterious silhouette lurks in the darkness, keeping close tabs on him. Fast forward to the next day. Arata pulls up to the testing grounds where Dojo drops the hammer, immediately fail this, and he's banned from the escort mission into the S-Rank Rift. The timer starts now. Arata wastes zero time launching himself straight at the legendary trio. He knows he got wrecked in seconds last time, but today, the kid has flipped the switch. He's all in. Boom, he blasts a massive black smokescreen to blind the field. Takuto clocks the strategy instantly. Arata's forcing a stalemate to prevent friendly fire. Takuto fires a shockwave to clear the vision ahead, but he walked right into a setup. Double trap. Takuto's feet are glued to the mud, and honestly, he is low-key impressed. Dojo doesn't wait, lunging in for the kill with his signature move. Big mistake, he's reusing the same attack from their last spar. And Arata reads him like a book. He counters the strike without breaking a sweat. Dojo's eyes go wide. Pure shock mixed with respect. It proves one thing: Arata's combat adaptation is glitch-level fast. Now, airborne Arata looks like an easy target for Shion. She unleashes a jagged lightning wave to swat him out of the sky, causing a massive detonation. But when the smoke fades, it wasn't Arata, just a decoy clone. The real Arata is hovering above Brain, working overtime, synthesizing every lesson they drilled into him. He locks onto the trio. Burst cannon. A concentrated beam of soot blasts down like an orbital strike. Takuto digs the aggression, but he figures this is checkmate. The three legends sync up, firing their ultimates simultaneously, creating a cataclysmic explosion. The timer hits 42 seconds. Ryo notes the improvement, but technically, still a fail. But hold up, everyone freezes. When the dust settles, Arata isn't a charcoal briquette. There is just a shimmering rift tearing the air where he stood. Before they can process it, bam, Arata materializes right behind them. His right arm is pulsating with dark soot energy, looking straight up demonic. He is drenched in sweat, pushing past his red line. Turns out, Rei and Ryo's hellish training unlocked something in him. But no breaks allowed. The trio rushes him instantly for a finisher. But Arata slips into another rift, vanishing into thin air. Dojo is absolutely floored. Realizing the kid didn't just learn a new tech, he mastered it mid-fight. Shion nods, calling his growth rate terrifying. Even Takuto has to admit, he is impressed the rookie is actually toying with them. Suddenly, the clock ticks past 10 minutes, and the brawl is still raging. Rei watches with a grin, noticing the Golden Slayers are actually having a blast. Finally, at the 32-minute mark, Arata hits the dirt. Dojo calls it, he passed. With flying colors. Dojo admits they haven't felt this alive in a fight for ages, thanking Arata for the thrill. Arata daps him up, hyped that his ticket to the demon realm is finally punched. But Xian warns him to stay sharp, complacency gets you killed. Just then, that weird shadow blob from yesterday pops up right on Arata's shoulder. The whole squad freezes, totally clueless about what this thing is. Rio sighs, deciding he is done being shocked by Arata's endless bag of tricks. Later at the research institute, Aki brings up the foreign energy residue left inside Arata's body. She drops a bomb, that shadow critter. It is the residue manifested into form by Arata's own power. Arata admits the little guy gives him a strange sense of zen whenever he looks at it. Aki notes it is just a newborn, but she is betting it will evolve and mutate as it grows. She tells him to name it. Arata looks at the blob and decides on Piggy. Classic. With business handled. Ray insists they go blow off some steam. Surprise, surprise, the whole crew, Golden Slayers included, crash the party. Rio raises a glass, announcing this shindig is all for Arata passing the exam. Xian slides in, turning on the charm, asking Arata if he wants to get cozy with her. As his new big sister, Ray immediately body blocks her, shutting that nonsense down. He calls her out, saying she is too old to play the big sis card. Xian snaps back, roasting Ray for being the shameless one who tackled Arata with a hug in public. The banter gets spicy, while everyone else vibes in the background. Later, Dojo pulls Arata aside for serious talk. They need to pick his escort for the S-Rank Rift deployment. It is decision time. Arata drops the hammer. This is a suicide run, so he's the one calling the shots on who rides shotgun into the S-Rank Rift. The Golden Slayers don't miss a beat. They instantly start glazing Arata, desperate to finesse their way into the slot. Xian plays the emotional card, practically begging to tag along, so she can flex that protective big sister energy. Rio tries to cash in his receipts, reminding Arata of every favor he's owed, while Dojo and Ray scramble to hype up their own resumes. Arata cuts through the noise, silencing the room. He doesn't need a debate. The decision is already locked in. He drops the name without blinking. Partner chosen. With the tension broken, the party vibes settle down and everyone heads out. Later, Arata keeps it real with Ray, thanking her for the invite. Ray shrugs it off. Getting the crew interested in the rising star was the easiest quest she's ever had. Arata gets vulnerable for a sec, admitting the squad feels like the home he lost. Since his brother passed, he hasn't felt this kind of connection. That realization fuels his fire. He's done being protected. It's time to level up and become the shield for the people he cares about. The wholesome moment instantly dies when Arata points out Ray is walking the wrong way. Again, girl's internal GPS is completely fried. With the entrance exam crushed, the grind begins, weeks of agonizing waiting for an S-Rank rift to finally spawn. But in the shadows, things are getting messy. Takatora, rotting in his cell, gets a suspicious invite from a demon realm creeper. Months later, the alarm bells ring. An S-Rank magic rift tears open and Arata steps up to the plate. It's showtime. Dojo gives him a heavy pat on the back, reminding him that the team's hopes are riding entirely on his shoulders. Just as he steps to the ledge, Takuto pulls up. No warm fuzzies, just a cold order to survive whatever nightmare is waiting inside. The chemistry is electric. Turns out Arata's escort into the abyss isn't a buddy, it's Takuto. This run just got interesting.